Hey everybody, welcome to the Horror Syndicate Discourse on Sunday night. It's time to clear your throat. Uh, if you've never been here before and you've never seen our show before, you're in for a treat because tonight we're doing something a little bit different. We're doing something called Movies That Made Me or Made Us, and this one's about Seth. So we're going to find out how this sweet little boy, the whole world ahead of him, nothing but a bright future, turned into this asshole. This guy. So jaded. So closed off to the world. So opinionated. And we're going to find out which movies made him that way. I'm Razor. We're going to invite Nate and Seth to join us tonight. Jared is not with us tonight, but we're going to have a good time anyway. So let's bring in Seth first. Seth, how are you doing, man?
Pretty good. That was an exceptionally well done intro to me.
We've been friends for 4 or 5 years now, and I've gotten to know you very well and dread every conversation. No, I'm joking. I don't think you're an asshole. I think you're very opinionated, and you take good stances on things. Honestly, I don't think you have too bad of an opinion at all. And we share a lot of similarities and things we like, with the exception of a couple of movies here and there. That happens, But overall, I'm looking forward to digging in and finding out some of the movies that you grew up watching that made you the fan that you are today. Uber fan is what you are of sequels, because you are sequel Seth, regardless of what you think. So, are you prepared?
True. Yes, I'm prepared.
Okay, well, let's bring Nate in here, and we'll let Nate kind of explain how he got this idea. We've done his episode. Nate, what's happening, sir?
What's up?
So, Nate, you came up with this idea before we started the new season of Discourse, and we've already done your episode, which clocks in at a paltry 2 hours and 48 minutes. I expected at least 4 to 5 hours.
Yeah, I could have.
Yeah, I know. What was the inspiration behind this?
Well, yeah, it's not my idea. It was Joe Dante's podcast, just called "The Movies That Made Us," and they decided to do a show where they invite filmmakers, usually writers and directors, to come on and talk about the movies that they watched when they were young, that they loved or inspired them, made them who they are, and they just felt that it was, when you work in the industry, you're always doing podcasts and interviews, radio interviews, and you get the same damn questions about your movies, talk about your movies for 30 years, and they were like, but when people talk about the movies that they love, they get the spark, they tweak, and it's exciting, and they really have fun with it. So they decided that was their format. And I listened to the podcast all the time, and I thought that would kind of be fun to just kind of talk about, because it's a gateway in knowing each other too. Like,
right.
We talked about doing shows. I think maybe Jared had talked about that, maybe doing a show where we introduced each other, who we are, all that. Thank you, Stephen. And so I thought, well, this is a perfect one because we're all here. I mean, this show exists because of our love of movies.
Right.
And we came together for our love of movies. So I think it'd be really cool to hear like what movies, and this is not necessarily horror. It's not necessarily, it has to do with sections of your life, because the movies you watched when you were a little kid, mean a lot to you, even though maybe they don't hold up well, or maybe you don't feel the same way now that you did then. But it's just, I think it was real fun talking about, even though they were my picks, to bring up a movie and you guys respond to them. Oh yeah, I love that movie. So I'm really excited to hear what Seth has to pick and what you had to pick when we do your show with Jared. So I'm looking forward to this one.
If we would have done just one episode of all of us doing that, we would have been here till 6 a.m.
Yeah.
So it's good to break them up into 4 episodes. Everybody gets their time to shine. First question though, Seth, and I already know the answer. Hellraiser or Hellraiser 2?
Hellraiser 2.
Yep.
It's very, very tight. Very tight there.
That's like a 9.5 and a 9.52 or something like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So yeah, I should have named this course Origins. I don't know what I was thinking. Like that's kind of what this is. Although we don't delve too deep into the horror because like you said, most of it we did watch horror. You didn't start watching horror till what, 13 or so?
About 12.
I mean,
saw some, but not religiously.
Right, and I was sprinkled in throughout my youth growing up. You know, mostly Freddy, Jason, Lost Boys, and stuff. And I didn't start really getting into it like deeply until I was 13, 14. Seth, I feel like you might be in the same realm because I think you said you were in high school when you really started delving in deeper into horror, right?
Well, I got there are some horror that I've seen when I was younger, but like my love of the genre didn't really happen until my high school years.
Exactly. And so this is we're going to go deeper than that. We're going to go all the way back to when Seth started really picking up movies. And I don't remember the age group, Nate. What are you eating? Soup?
Ice cream.
Okay.
Ice cream. Yeah, we went and got dinner right before I was rushing back here, and they got milkshakes, and I can't have milkshakes.
Oh,
I got some Ben and Jerry's dairy free.
Dairy free, yeah.
Tonight dough.
I hope it's good.
It is.
But yeah, you started. What age was this? We started with.
I think the first group is supposed to be from birth to 5 years old. So the first 5 years of your life, and it's not necessarily movies that came out in those first 5 years,
Right.
but the movies that you remember watching from those first 5 years that that you watched a lot, and that meant a lot to you or had a early impact. Like Star Wars had one on me because I first Star Wars movies came out from the time I was 1 to 7. But it could be something like The Wizard of Oz, which was one of my picks. I watched that as a kid. Or sometimes it's the movies that our parents loved, that they'll share with us.
Yeah.
If they could, because it was before my time was before VHS and my first 5 years. So it was whatever was on TV or on cable.
Pretty much, yeah. Same here. So Seth, why don't you get us started? I'm sure you got a list there. Let's start talking about some of these movies that really had a big impact on your life.
Yeah, okay. So I was born in 83. So the first 5 years is,
And his social security number is no, I'm joking. Go ahead.
Yeah. So it goes up to 88. I don't really remember. I think there's a little bit of overlap between this section and the next section, which is 6 through 10. So I'm just gonna go to the 6 through 10, which will be 89 to 93, because there is some overlap. And honestly, the first 5 years of my life, don't remember at all.
Doing a lot of weed.
Yeah.
Burnout.
Yeah. So
Wait,
I actually
hold on. Let me back up. Was I wrong in the intro? Was this kid a burnout?
He was a burn. I don't remember anything.
Coke
and whores.
taken.
It was the 80s, Coke and whores. He worked on Wall Street.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, Seth.
Bubby.
Yeah. So I actually I went a little bit further even, and I did break it up between the horror and the non-horror for the periods here.
Okay.
So for the horror in this range, I'm starting off with the Universal monsters, which I think are a great sort of like gateway for kids to get into horror. I remember when I was younger, roughly around like Halloween time, my dad came home from work and he stopped and he rented a couple of VHSs, and it was Dracula, Frankenstein. Of course, my mom loves Creature from the Black Lagoon, but so I was very fond of those movies at a very young age, and they did really help to shape me, because when it comes to horror, I'm more of like a monster type of guy, more so than like slashers. Like I love slashers, but I have a as you guys know, I have a very deep love for like monster films, vampires, werewolves, stuff like that. So
Werewolf,
the
you say?
Universal monsters were huge for me when I was a kid. And then following that up is the first Child's Play trilogy. I remember when I was a kid, I had one of those My Buddy dolls, and they used to play those movies on TV all the time. And that My Buddy doll went out in the fucking hallway fast. So so like the Child's Play films, I have a special place for them because of, I was very young when I saw them. And same thing for the next ones here is Pet Cemetery 1 and 2. Am I talking too fast for you guys?
No, keep going.
Slow down.
Pet Cemetery 1 and 2. And I remember, when I was a kid, like I understood that the first movie was sad, but I didn't really understand what it was about thematically as far as grief. So I always preferred the second one when I was a kid. Wrong. I was, wrong choice now, but like because the main character was a kid. I kind of like I
connected more.
Yeah, so I kind of like connected it with that. So
I still like it though to this day. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of falls apart in the third act. Like the first two acts are actually really strong, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Edward Furlong is dressed in a suit and he's like working with Clancy Brown. Like, it just came out of nowhere. But I've always loved that movie, and yeah.
It'd be a fun
then
one
another one here. Another one here is Silver Bullet. One of Nate's favorites. Silver Bullet. It was like Silver Bullet was one of those films that my parents had on VHS. And so we watched it all the time. Like when I was a kid, like again, it was about a kid, so I connected with it that way, even though I could walk and Marty couldn't. And I always liked Uncle Red, played by Gary Busey, who I also knew from one of my non-horror sections here. But Silver Bullet has always been like a favorite of mine, and this is like pre-obsessed werewolf day. I don't know, like so far, like a lot of these movies, like they involve like kids or kid stuff. So like I think that's why I kind of really got attached to them because I just connected with them that way.
That may have been my first werewolf movie, actually.
That was what I was going to ask. Yeah, that was what I was going to ask because I think it might be my first werewolf movie too.
Because I saw it when it hit VHS in probably 80. That was an 86 movie, right?
85.
Okay, so I probably saw it in 86, and I remember, I vividly remember those images sticking with me of. Is there a guy gets his head cut off in the beginning, the railroad, like the train? I remember that because I had never seen shit like that because I didn't watch horror movies. I remember like that stuck with me, and then the shot of the girl who's mauled in her bedroom and all the blood everywhere. And what's so funny is like when I go back and watch that scene now, you watch that, it's like, oh, it's just blood thrown everywhere. Like there's no gore. Like there's no like she's blood, not ripped up. It's just blood. You look at it and go, that's really tame. But in my 10-year-old mind, I was like, oh my God, it's a horrible thing.
Just like the hook scene in Texas Chainsaw. You think you see it go into her back, but you don't. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that scene got to me too, Nate. Like I think it's the way that it's shot, and like the way that the music is, like it's so frantic.
Yeah.
And I remember that part scared me as a kid. I mean, even as a kid seeing this, I was a little disturbed too with like the shot of the guy who died on the railroad track, because like they show like like the next morning and it's like his severed head and there's flies there and like
a little hereditary action there.
yeah.
That's alarming. I remember just stuck with me after seeing that movie, those two images.
Yeah. Yep, same here. So also in this same era, Needful Things was another one. It's like that's why, like, I understand, like, a lot of people don't really care for that film so much, but it's actually one of my favorite Stephen King stories. But I remember, my parents watching Needful Things when I was younger. I think it was on TV. It was like on maybe, I don't know if it premiered on HBO or something like that. But I've always really loved it. And, I think the scene that always stuck with me was the fight between Wilma and Nettie. They're going at each other with a meat cleaver and a knife in the house. And like that scene always stuck with me. So it's another film that I've always really enjoyed. And then, of course, because of that, years later, when I was kind of getting more into reading books and stuff like that, I was started, going with Stephen King because I was curious about the book and stuff like that. So, yeah, that was pretty influential. Let's see here. I also got there's the movie The New Kids. I don't think Ray likes it very much.
Is that
it was okay.
that's the Lori Loughlin? And is it
Yeah.
Sean Cunningham movie?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't hate it. It's or anything like that. I got it because I saw people. It like came out on Blu-ray. I was like, "Oh, this is a great horror movie." I watched it. I'm like, yeah, it's not much of a horror movie to me, but it's not a bad movie.
Yeah, well, that's another one that my parents had on VHS, and so it was like watched in the house a lot. And that was my first introduction to James Spader, who I think is a great actor, and I love him in that movie. But I got the movie on Blu-ray a couple years ago, and rewatching it, it's still fun to me. But like, I don't like overly love it as much as I did when I was younger. But it was like one of those that my parents had. They watched a lot, so I watched it, and I have a soft spot for it because of that.
Did I bring up Tough Turf on my episode? That you mentioned James Spader, because that was
I do think you did because I've heard that recently.
Yeah,
that might
like
have been
James
on your show.
Spader was like that was the movie. That and Mannequin were what I knew James
Yeah.
Spader from. But yeah, I didn't see The New Kids back then. I saw it probably 10 years ago or 15 years ago. But that's what's really interesting about the show like this is, there were movies that I completely missed, but there's always those movies like that where you watched it all the time because you had VHS or because you recorded it off the cable or whatever. And back then that's what we had. We've talked about that. Like, so you watched it again and again and again because that was your options.
Yeah.
But if you missed it, because I'll talk to people from my age group and they'll be like, I don't remember Streets of Fire, or I don't remember. And like, how did you not see that? But then I'm like, I didn't even know Blade Runner existed until my buddy mentioned it in high school. Like, that's my favorite movie. I'm like, what is that? Like, wait a minute, it's got Harrison Ford. Like, how the fuck did I not know about this movie?
Yeah.
But that's just how, because we didn't have the internet. We didn't have, if shit didn't come on TV, you didn't know it existed. Or you didn't know about it.
That's true.
Yep.
Yeah. Or or someone didn't tell you, someone didn't inform you, which we've talked about. The purpose of this show and things like this is to open people up to things they don't know about rather than beat them up for not knowing about it. Like,
I will say one thing though. One advantage we had over the generation before us is the video store, because there were things that I would rent because I saw Harrison Ford or something like that. Like Patriot games, I had no interest in. I was like, oh, Harrison Ford's in this. I rented it, and I mean, back then I didn't care for it. I love it now, but back when I was a kid, I was like, this is not what I expected. But yeah,
where's his laser blaster at?
No. I mean, I knew it wasn't going to be anything like that.
It was the Tom Clancy stuff was more mature adult.
It was, yeah.
Espionage,
I think he had like Patriot games had been out, but I think I had just seen The Fugitive, so I expected something a little bit more. Yeah. Anyway, you go, Seth.
Okay, and so next up here is the Blob remake. Now, actually, when I was a kid, I saw both of them. The original, my parents had the VHS of the Stephen McQueen one, and then the remake. I remember them watching that, and To this day, I still love the Blob remake. I watched it again the other night, and I'm just like, I fucking love this movie. It's such a fun movie.
It is.
And it's actually kind of it's got some pretty terrifying stuff in it. But I noticed when I was watching it the other day, even though I hadn't watched it in a while, because I saw it a lot as a kid, like I knew certain things were like I remember a lot of certain scenes, you know, like the scene with the couple in the car, you know, and he's trying to unbutton her shirt or whatever, and then you know, the movie theater scene, stuff like that. I remember like it just watching that movie. It just always takes me back. So, yeah. And then next up, I know that we're saying movies, but I included a couple TV shows. Tales from the Crypt. I remember watching that on HBO when I was a kid, even though I wasn't supposed to.
You used to come on late too, like 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Oh yeah.
I used to sneak and watch it because I guess I don't know if I sneak because I was 89 when that show started, 88, 89. So
I think it was 89.
I was like, I just remember that opening credit, like when that opening came on, I was just so excited about it. I remember staying up late and watching it.
Yeah. And then yeah, I mean the Crypt Keeper always kind of like he creeped me out as a kid, but I was like it's like one of those things where it's like I couldn't look away. And then just like I'm a huge fan of EC Comics, and you know, my dad has a lot of the old EC comics, and one of my favorites is the Vault of Horror, but that type of story where it's sort of like, you know, it's like they're about bad people who kind of get what's coming to them. It kind of shapes some of my own stories that I write. You know, there's years ago I took this comic book writing course through Comics Experience with Andy Schmidt, and we had to do a 6-page comic with a complete beginning, middle, and end. And I did this sort of like story that was inspired by EC Comics, and it was a lot of fun to write. It was a blast to write.
Oh, I love that. I know all three of us are writers, and we've all three written comics, and I've done those 8-page comics and as a writer and artist. And yeah, it's fun because it's a great challenge to formulate, like you said, a 3-act story with so limited time. And it really, like Tales from the Crypt worked so well, and they were so clever. It's really phenomenal how good they are, and how clever and how structured, and so yeah, it's a great tool to learn from, to read EC Comics and watch Tales from the Crypt. Just like even when I did like the Volumes of Blood movies, you know, basically the same thing, doing a horror anthology where I've got 15 to 20 minutes to do a short story. And I definitely use those templates when I was writing, say, the stories I did, where if I didn't have that hook or that twist or that like big reveal, like Tales from the Crypt, to me, it wasn't ready yet. I need to go back in the oven, because it's like, and a lot of the scripts I would read for the movie would be like, yeah, this is fun, but what's the point? It goes nowhere. You know, there has to be those, like, definitely Tales from the Crypt was the template for, all right, where's that final splash page panel, whoa, kind of moment that EC Comics and Tales from the Crypt had, where you're like, whoa, it's all set up. It's so smart. Those are just wonderful stuff and good tools for any person who. All writers should test themselves in writing short stories and try to make something from start to finish, not an ongoing thing, but just to say, all right, you only get 8 pages to tell your story.
Yeah, because that really can test your mettle as a writer. I've done that before, and it's like, oh, no problem, and then you get down to it, you're like, oof, okay, I need to fit. Yeah, that's it. I think you're right.
And it teaches you to, like, as Stephen King, we've talked about, Stephen King says, murder your children. What do you need and what do you not need, and to limit yourself. And I love it when any artist or writer does, like when Frank Miller did that issue of Sin City where there's no dialogue, where Marv goes to rescue that girl. or even with that Larry Hama Storm Shadow Snake Eyes is kind of like that. There's no lines in it or no words. It's very short. So I think there's a GI
I don't think
Joe.
I've seen that one.
It's like Storm Shadow has like Scarlet, and Snake Eyes sneaks in to steal her or rescue her.
Is that the original run?
Yeah, and that's where they reveal the tattoo.
Oh, the Arashika or whatever.
Yeah, in the fight, Storm Shadow's bands come off, and it's revealed there on his arm. And
I'd love to read that.
Yeah, it's one of his most famous ones.
Oh man, Seth, do you still have access to that story?
Yeah,
I would love to read that if you're okay with it sometime.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, the G.I. Joe one?
No, his short story. The G.I. Joe one I absolutely want to read, but I also want to read Seth's short story.
Well, Seth's a phenomenal writer for anybody out there who hasn't read his stuff. I've read a couple of his screenplays, and
he'll be writing for Unparalleled Comics. So my
comic
company, just saying.
Well, that exercise was very challenging because I'm someone who you could say overplots, or I think of a lot of stuff, and like trying to come up with 6 pages with a complete beginning, middle, and end. And with the story that I had, like I had so many different intricate things going on, but I had to literally keep cutting out certain things and then just try to keep it as simplistic as possible. And that's really
what a real challenge is. You're right. Yeah.
It's tough. It's really tough, but it was fun, man. It was fun writing a EC Comics style script. But moving on to kind of close out the horror here. This is another TV series, but the X-Files. I was huge into X-Files when it first came on. I was always watching it. I think there's some pretty, at least for me when I was a kid, there was some pretty scary stuff.
There's a whole episode that's like The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing. Pardon me.
Yes. Yep. I always remember that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and it was like, it's the precursor to Supernatural in a way. So, it was a show that I love. But yeah, the X-Files was one that I watched a lot as a kid. I always made sure to watch it when they aired. Okay, now going into the non-horror. First off the bat, I'm going to say Star Wars trilogy, the original trilogy. Those films, man, I would always borrow the VHS tapes from people to watch them, and I think they are they were really helpful for me, as well as sort of kind of being a creative person, because I think they're it's a well plotted trilogy. And I think most of all is the characters and their dynamics with each other. I mean, it's essentially, the first one, now called The New Hope, like it's essentially a bunch of strangers coming together, and they all eventually become friends. And, when you get to the ending of A New Hope and into Empire and then into Return of the Jedi, their relationship with each other all feels natural. And that's something I like to keep in mind when I do my writing, is characters, their friendships and their relationships with each other, and try to do it in a very kind of natural way. And I kind of like the whole idea of, strangers coming together, and then, eventually, because of their experience, they have a bond and a camaraderie. So, Star Wars is the original trilogy is very influential. Next up is going to be Batman and Batman Returns. So when Batman came out in '89, my dad took me and my brother to go see it, and then I guess he wasn't supposed to, but I accidentally
why not?
I don't remember, like it was I don't know if it was money was tight or what, but
okay.
I ratted him out to my mom. So good job, Seth. Next up is Superman 1 through 4.
Quest for Peace.
Listen,
Mhm.
I loved Quest for Peace when I was a kid. Like the
Right.
quality, I didn't care about that when I was a kid. You know,
No.
I had a lot of fun with Nuclear Man. I always got a chuckle out of like that one moment where the newspaper kind of spins around on the screen and says Superman tells kid to drop dead. There's just so many. there's so many great things in those. Like I know they're kind of dated now, and I know 3 and 4 aren't really beloved, but I grew up with all 4 of them. I mean, Christopher Reeve is, you know, he's Superman to me, and those 4 films I thought were really cool.
Yeah, part 3. I didn't mention part 3, but I remember really loving part 3 too. And it was it was one of those early horrific movies too, because of that whole like so many people in my generation, you guys probably included, like when she turns into the robot or whatever, like that fucked me up. Like, or even I remember being really upset when when Superman fights himself in the junkyard. I remember like that bothered me.
There's something about those scenes where a character fights themselves, like in Infinity War. I've always liked that, and that never like freaked me out or anything. I was like, this is cool. Superman versus, you know, like, yeah. Anyway,
it's cool, but yeah, at the time, it just it disturbed me. It bothered me to see, you know, dark Superman fighting himself. I mean, it was. You know, again, when that movie come out, what, 83?
Yeah.
What was 83, 84, something like that. So yeah, I was like 7. And it just, you know, and by that time I loved Superman. I loved Christopher Reeve. I loved to see, you know, and now it's kind of funny to think that I was bothered by it. But like so many people, when I talk about movies we saw as kids and moments that fucked us up, so many people say that sister being with all the metal putting on her face and coming out.
Freaky shit, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so next up in the non-horror section is
Jared's back next week, he says.
Awesome. Is the greatest movie ever made and its sequel, Die Hard and Die Hard 2. You know, my parents watched them when I was a kid, and I've always enjoyed them. You know, like I think they were on HBO. I think that's how they first saw it, at least the first one, and then they got the VHS. And you know, we always watched the Die Hard movie, especially the first one. But yeah, you know, Die Hard is my favorite movie of all time. Period. So, you know, it's stuck with me since I was a kid. And to follow that up, Lethal Weapon 1 through 3. Lethal Weapon movies that's another series that my family watched a lot when I was younger, and I love them. I love especially part 2. That's actually my favorite. I know a lot of people prefer the first one, but I think overall that series as a whole, like all 4 of them, I think it's a really great series of films, and I especially love, you know, looking at them now, you know, how each film sort of matches the progression of the Martin Riggs character. You know, the first one is sort of like the more serious, the more edgy one. That's when he's very suicidal, but then he gets a second family due to the Murtaughs, and so in the second one he's still on edge a little bit, but he's very much lightened up because he has that family element. And then, of course, by the end of that, you know, he meets the person who killed his wife Vicky, and so in a way he sort of gets closure. And then so like with part 3, you know, he's got the closure for Vicky's death, he's got the Murtaughs, and he's just very much lightened up. And then in the 4th film, you know, he's starting to get his own family as well. So and the tone of each film really matches, I think, that progression of the Riggs character sort of lightening up. And that's another thing, you know, that I try to keep in mind for storytelling is how especially if I do like a sequel or whatever, is how does what happened before change the person for the next story. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. And I also forgot to mention with Die Hard, speaking of this, going back to Die Hard real quick. Another thing I love to keep in mind with my writing is I love showing the consequences of violence, and and I think Nate and I talked about this before one time, where you start, the character starts off, John McClane starts off, he's clean, it's he's just clean looking and everything, and then of course he's at the party and he takes off his shoes and his socks based on the advice he got earlier.
Yeah.
And that makes him vulnerable, for his feet, for what comes, especially later on. And then just, by the end of the movie, he's bruised, he's dirty, he's broken, he's, his feet are all cut up. And, I kind of like that. Like, yeah. I hate when writers or filmmakers baby their protagonist. Yeah. I just don't respect that at all. Like, if I'm going to put my characters in high peril, by the end, they're going to be showing that. So,
yeah. And it's a good example of writing, setting up and payoff, with like Die Hard opens with that scene with that guy on the plane. And you may think, well, did we really need that scene, or why does he have this conversation? And then you see him take that. That's why he doesn't have his shoes on, and that's what sets him up with so much vulnerability. With okay, so he doesn't have shoes, so what? Oh, shoot the glass. I mean, it's all these great setups to come in. It's a good storytelling thing, and I love that. I'm a big Die Hard Lethal Weapon fan, but listening to you talk, it did remind me how much Martin Riggs meant to me, that character. I love John McClane, and I love Die Hard more than Lethal Weapon, but Martin Riggs was a big, big thing for me. And I like, what was I going to talk about? I forgot. Well, when you were talking about I had something else, but going back to John McClane and the consequences of, like you said, we talked about it, how filthy he is and how broken he is at the end of the movie, which made him more human. And I think I mentioned that episode, which he must have ripped it off, Todd McFarlane's Torment story, the first Spider-Man story he did, where Spider-Man goes through fucking hell fighting a lizard. And by the end of it, his costume's hardly falling off of him. And, there's a parallel, because at the end of Die Hard, where McClane's walking in, covered in blood, stumbling, like hobbling, and Bonnie Bedelia sees him and he says, "Hi, honey."
That's my favorite scene in the whole movie. Yeah.
Hi, honey. Well, like in the Spider-Man story, like Spider-Man comes in through like his bathroom window or whatever, and he's like laying in the doorway, all broken and wet from the rain and blood, and he's on the floor and he says, "Honey, I'm home," or something like that. And I love that, and like that's one of the reasons, like, Year One's my favorite Batman comic. That whole fight scene on the fire escape, where he has such a hard time, and in the last panel,
his first night out as Batman,
and then he's just sitting there, tired. And just sitting with all these like guys
around that he just beat up.
He beat him up, but he also saved one of them. One of them was going to fall to his death, so he's trying to save one of them while he's getting kicked in the head. Like, and it's just, and then before that, he has the whole fight with the prostitutes and the pimp and all that, and almost dies. Like, so the humanity, the in film or in storytelling and in acting especially, we're always talked about stakes. What's at stake? How much does this cost us to say this, to do this? It has to have reason or purpose, or it has to cost us something to do something or say something. And so, Riggs, the shit he went through and how he's calling back. And I like how you said the character grows and grows. That's what I was going to think. I was going to ask you. I think it was the third movie, but it could have been the second one. There was like an HBO or Showtime or something behind the scenes making of, where Mel Gibson was like he was running. They were following Mel Gibson around the studio or the set of Lethal Weapon 2 or 3, and I remember he like goes into the office because one of his socks is slacking. I don't know, like he's pulling up his sock and it's like a like stretched, so it's falling down. And he goes into the office to complain about it. Chevy Chase is in there with him. He's like, "You got one too?" He goes, "Yeah, look." And he's like, "Look, slack." They're like bitching about their socks they were given by the production. I don't know if y'all remember seeing that.
I don't remember that.
I remember watching. I wonder if it's on YouTube. It was like a making of or a promotional thing for Lethal Weapon 2 or 3.
I bet it's on YouTube somewhere.
Yeah, and I remember that was real fun. I used to watch it because I had it recorded on VHS, and I just loved Riggs. I loved anything Mel Gibson and Riggs, and yeah.
Yep.
Thoughts on Rambo 3 real fast.
Saw it one time. Don't really.
My least favorite Rambo movie.
Yeah.
I think that's.
Although that last one was pretty bad. That Revenge one I thought was.
I like them all. I'm a bit huge Sylvester Stallone fan, regardless. So.
Yeah. Well, the first one's a masterpiece.
Yes.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of which.
Segue.
First Blood is my next pick here. What a terrific movie. And it's great from a character perspective as far as Rambo. It's great from I just love the whole idea. We'll see this quite a bit on this list, but I kind of like movies where you got one person that's sort of like being hunted of sorts. Yeah. And First Blood is unique even when they didn't sell in series because every other sequel is kind of like formula to like Rambo 2 and on, whereas the first film is just, I think, very unique. It's got a really great villain. And then, the ending, you have your lead character who's this badass, but he has a complete breakdown, kind of showing how human he is. And I think that's just a really great and powerful moment. So First Blood is one of my favorite action movies, and it's a good Christmas movie. Next up would be RoboCop. I used to always borrow my uncle's copy of RoboCop on VHS a lot when I was a kid. Goddamn, I still fucking love that movie so much. Between the way Paul Verhoeven shoots it, the score from Basil Poledouris, like, it's just an awesome movie, and it's one of my favorites. It's always been one of my favorites since I was a child.
Would you buy it for $1?
I'd buy that for $1. So here's a couple I'll go through real quick. Some of these kind of, I don't know, it varies if I watch these within this period or if it's within the next because of like when they were released. But as a kid, I was a big Van Damme fan. So Hard Target is my favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. It's actually my favorite John Woo movie as well. And I remember actually when I was a kid, me, my brother, and the other neighborhood kids, we actually made a game of Hard Target, minus the guns and the motorcycles. But like we would, like one person would, get like a head start and run through the woods, and then everyone else would have to like run through the woods to try to find them.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool game. Like I love that movie. And then also another one I watched a lot when I was younger was Nowhere to Run.
I remember that one was really good, actually. That's one with Arquette, right? Or was that Roseanne Arquette?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know that one.
That was a good one. I remember. That's one of his better movies.
Yeah, like he's on he's a prisoner. He's like on a prison bus, and someone like destroys the bus pretty much, trying to break someone else out. And Van Damme runs, and then he kind of like holds up with like this woman
single
who
mother.
had kids. Yeah. It's one that I watched a lot as a kid.
Kind of like Blind Fury with Rutger Hauer. When he wasn't a criminal, but he hooks up with like a single mother or something. There's one.
Yeah.
Who remembers Blind Fury? Zatoichi with Richard Rucker Howard. All right, you named your Van Damme movie. Is that your favorite Van Damme movie? Hard Target. You did say that was your favorite Van Damme movie and your favorite John Woo movie. Ray, what's your favorite Van Damme movie?
I probably Bloodsport. Honestly, I quote that one quite a bit, like Frank Dukes, put up your dukes, like so I just bullshit like that. That's the one I've seen the most. His action movies, like I saw Time Cop in the theater, but his action movies are kind of I've forgotten a lot of them. Like Hard Target, you guys mentioned. I by the way, my screen's here, my camera's there. That's why I keep looking over here if anybody's wondering, because I'm on my Chromebook, not my laptop's acting up. So anyway, yeah, some of his action movies kind of. There was one that came out late. It was like Lionheart or something. I really liked that one. But yeah, I like more of the martial arts movies with him than anything else.
I was a big Cyborg fan. That was
Cyborg's great.
I used to watch Cyborg all the time. It inspired some comic I did back then.
Yeah, I also have Double Impact down here, which is
that's when he's twins, right?
Yeah.
I remember that one. Okay.
Yeah, I watched it not too long ago because I got it on Blu-ray, and it's still pretty fun. A little corny in parts, and then also I love Time Cop as well.
Like my poop.
Someone should remake Cyborg.
Oh, Universal Soldier.
Oh yeah,
that was a cool movie.
Yes. That's another one. Yep.
Yeah.
Although I think the best film I ever saw him do was that where he played himself. Was it
JCVD?
Yeah, JCVD. I thought that was phenomenal.
I haven't seen that one either.
He actually that one part where he monologues, it's like, holy shit, Van Damme's actually a good actor.
I know, like that was what opened me up. I was like, oh, when he gets to speak French, he's good. Like it's really just in his just not being his language. It's not that he can't act. I think it's more of that he's speaking another language. Like, let's see Schwarzenegger do an Austrian film.
Yep.
Although Schwarzenegger's a good actor.
He is a good actor.
Yeah.
Arnold.
I love listening to Arnold talk, man. I've been watching.
Did you watch the documentary on Netflix?
Yeah, but I've been listening to him on a lot of podcasts lately. He's just so quick-witted and fun. And I don't know, I talked about podcasts. I don't know if you guys listen to Conan O'Brien show.
I just started watching it one the other day for the first time.
Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend.
Yeah, I had Larry David on.
Yeah. Well, if you go back last year, he did an episode, like 3 episodes. Dana Carvey, Dana Carvey, Robert Smigel, and Kevin Nealon and Conan wrote a Hans and Franz movie back then to make, and Schwarzenegger would have been a main star. They were going to find their cousin Arnold Schwarzenegger, and they wrote this whole screenplay, and it never got produced. But Schwarzenegger wanted to do it because he loved it, and so
it's not too late.
They did 3 or 4 episodes on the Conan O'Brien podcast where they read it.
Oh my God! Really?
Characters. Yeah, so you can listen to them read the screenplay, and Dana and Kevin doing the Hans and Franz, and them doing Schwarzenegger, and it's hilarious. And Arnold was just on there not too long ago, and he was talking about, I would have loved to do the movie,
I love Arnold.
He was like, he was so excited. He goes, we need to do that, So Arnold would do the movie right now if he had the money. But yeah, if you're a fan of Arnold and you just listen.
How can you not be a fan of Arnold?
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Cue Seth saying I hate Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Curly man. Yeah, you haven't mentioned a Schwarzenegger movie, have you?
Commando's going to be really prevalent on mine. I'm just saying.
Yeah, Commando. Yeah, I used to watch the shit out of that movie.
Yeah, me too.
Don't bother my friend. He's dead tired.
Go ahead, Seth. Let's keep this train moving.
Yeah. So Terminator 1 and 2.
There you go.
Okay, so we need to stop talking and let him get to it.
Well, we didn't mention Terminator.
Yeah, but true. But yeah, Schwarzenegger. Go ahead.
Yeah. T1 and T2. Like I do kind of prefer the first one over the second one, but the second one is one of the greatest action movies ever made.
Oh yeah,
and the visual effects still hold up to this day. They're better than
they do.
some visual effects of some modern movies. And
yeah.
I love I will say I love pre-Titanic James Cameron. Like he is he's so awesome at directing action sequences, and like there's like a sort of like a really awesome intensity, especially in T2, with that, chase on the highway towards the end,
Yeah.
just really cool stuff. And then I'm just gonna push through here. Some other ones in this time period. Darkman, love it. The Road Warrior, The Last Boy Scout, Jaws 1 and 2, Stand By Me, Indiana Jones, Judgment Night, Raising Arizona, Total Recall, and Falling Down. Those are all films that I watched a lot.
Judgment Night and Falling Down.
Yeah.
I watched a lot from '93. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oddly, you put Jaws not in the horror section.
If you wrote it in fucking English, I'd fucking understand it.
That's my favorite part. That made me laugh so hard, like when I was a kid, and it still does today. I got the Blu-ray of it, and anytime I watch it, I love that part. Yeah, Falling Down is just like it's a weird movie because it's about a guy just snapping, but I don't know. There's some
It's Joe Schumacher's such an interesting filmmaker because
yeah.
When you hear Joe Schumacher, you don't think of some of the movies like that, or 8mm, or even something like what's that other one he did? It was like I think people hear Joe Schumacher, they think about the Batman movies and Lost Boys and Flatliners, but there's also that, and there's like A Time to Kill. I'd forgotten he had directed A Time to Kill.
That's right. Yep.
So he was a filmmaker that really could have handled anything. Like he did St. Elmo's Fire. He did a lot of.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy that could jump genres quite easily and well.
I think the Batman movies may have hurt his reputation.
Yeah, probably hurt him more than anything.
Yeah. I don't ever think about it that way because I do like those movies, but I do think they may have hurt his reputation because you do forget about some of the stuff he's made because he's made a lot of good movies. Yeah. And people lump him to the Lost Boys and the 2 Batman movies he made. So, and he gets blamed for the downfall of the Batman franchise. So that's bad on his part. Not bad on his part, but bad for him as well.
And it's unfortunate too, because like you said, he's a good director. He just he took a job, doing what Warner Brothers wanted him to do. They famously, they were mad about Batman Returns for being so dark. They wanted to sell toys, and he agreed to do a movie to help them sell toys. And
dark's ass.
And it's unfortunate, like when I remember, especially, in the early days of the internet, when Joe Schumacher's name got brought up, it's always tied to the bat nipples or whatever,
Mm-hmm. It's negative.
We still see that. Negative. We still see that shit ever since Rob Zombie did Halloween. He's the worst fucking guy out in the world. Zack Snyder, as soon as he did Superman and Batman, he was the worst filmmaker around. And these are filmmakers who were popular. People like Rian Johnson before he did Star Wars. It's almost like the worst fucking thing you could do is do an IP if you're a good filmmaker.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that's what's really kind of fucked up with Hollywood right now is that we get really good filmmakers who make these little independent films. And they do really well, and then they throw them an IP, and then they do that, and the fans are like, that sucks, this is a piece of shit, and now their career is now they're forever tainted by having done that Wonder Woman movie or whatever it was that they did. And it's like, but that's not why they got into it, but, they were offered all this money, and as a struggling artist, you got to take it. If you're making little independent movies, you're not making a lot of money.
Or any at all.
Yeah, so if you are struggling to pay the bills and they're like, hey, you want to do a Batman movie? You're like, fuck yeah, I want to do a Batman movie.
Well, not even just that. I mean, think about like Rian Johnson. He made Looper, which was a fun ass movie, and I really like his The Glass Onion and what was the other one? Knives Out. Fun movie.
Didn't he make a little noir like movie with Joseph Gordon-Levitt too before Hooper?
Brick.
I don't know
Really
that
good
one.
movie, yeah.
But he made some good movies. But he like at the same time, and I'm not going to defend him because I hate his Star Wars movie. But he's also a huge Star Wars fan. Why wouldn't you say yes to him? I get to play in the Star Wars, sandbox. Yes,
Yeah.
So I get why they do it, and it's a shame it does tarnish their career like it did with
all of those.
Schumacher.
That's the thing. All those guys were huge Star Wars fans. J.J. Abrams probably wouldn't have done what he did if it had been for Star Wars.
He's a bigger Phantasm fan, I think.
And then what? Gareth Edwards, right? He's the one who did Rogue One. Is he the one who did?
Yeah.
That was his favorite movie ever. Was A New Hope. And if I remember right, wasn't he the one that, like, for his honeymoon went to Tunisia?
I don't know about that, but that'd be cool.
I think it was him, like for his
he
honeymoon.
Made the best Star Wars movies since 2005. So
I think it was. I think it was his. I think it was him that his honeymoon. He and his wife went. New wife went to Tunisia to see the leftovers. Yeah.
His poor wife. I only say that because you can imagine how hot it was there.
But there are people who think Rogue One is a piece of shit, and people say everything Disney's done is shit, and it's like, but those guys are complete, total, committed, obsessive fans of this world and these characters. But you just can't satisfy all fans. All fans know more, are better. It's our attitude.
Yeah. All right, Seth, what's next?
All right, going to the next section, which is 11 through 16, which would be
formative years, not formative.
It would be 94 through 99. This one will be easy to get through. This is when I started really diving into horror. So I got the Halloween, Elm Street, Friday 13th, Hellraiser, Scream, Evil Dead, Phantasm, Texas Chainsaw 1 through 3, Candyman. From Dusk Till Dawn. So this is when I was really kind of getting into all the major horror franchises and really just kind of really diving in. And naturally, I'm a part of the show and part of the Horror Syndicate. So those films clearly had a strong hold on me. Now, this is also the era where I started getting into different types of filmmakers or starting to pay attention to filmmaking. Like this is, I once upon a time I wanted to be a filmmaker. And so I was paying attention to credits, paying attention to names. So, and I'll start off with the films of Alfred Hitchcock. I know they're technically not, most of them aren't technically horror, but I remember what was it? AMC or TCM, like they used to play Hitchcock movies all the time, and I would record them on a video, and I just love watching them. Like I love Rear Window. I love The Man Who Knew Too Much. Vertigo. Family Plot is a lot of fun. That's the last Hitchcock film. Naturally Psycho, The Birds, stuff like that. But yeah, so I love Hitchcock. I love his style of filmmaking, and the way he builds suspense is incredible. To this day, I still watch Hitchcock a lot. I've been trying to collect all of his movies. I'm trying to put together a master list where I rank all of his movies, at least the ones that are still available. I think there's 2 that are forever lost, but thank God for the Criterion Collection, because I've gotten quite a bit on Blu-ray. And then this leads me to the films of John Carpenter.
And who's that?
I don't know if you guys know this, but I kind of like Carpenter's films. Okay, this is the
I'll be right back.
I've seen some of his stuff periodically beforehand, right? Like I saw, naturally my mom had Halloween. I saw Christine before. I saw Escape from LA in the theater when it came out in 96. So I saw some of the stuff before, but then when I was in high school, started just going to the video store and just renting a lot on my own. I was working at the time as well, so I had money, and then I saw The Fog, and I just was like, all right, I'm all in. And so then I just kept trying to see as many of his films as possible. And Carpenter is a huge influence on me, huge influence on my writing, as far as not doing anything that's formula. Like his characters and his stories, they don't follow the traditional sense of what films are and like what could be told. Like his films he leaves his films open-ended. There's some of them don't end happy. His characters have their own attitude and their own way of speaking, and they're not your traditional characters. So Carpenter has been huge on me, and likewise the films of George Romero. The Crazies. Night of the Living Dead is my second favorite horror film of all time. Of course, I love The Crazies. I love Martin, The Dark Half. So George Romero was another influential one, particularly with the way he ends his films. Like, I think Romero is phenomenal at ending his stories on such a I guess kind of downer notes, but like really sort of emotional notes, just the ending of Night of the Living Dead, this guy survives. This guy survives the entire night, and then he's mistaken for a zombie or a ghoul. I'm sorry, and he's shot.
The way that movie makes you feel when you're watching those last images of just the bodies, and you see Ben is one of them. Just wow, we've just went through this night with this guy, and this is how it ends. Like it's pretty bleak, and I don't know if movies like that. There weren't a lot of movies before that movie that where everyone dies in the movie, and it's that's a gut punch of an ending.
Mm-hmm. And similarly with The Crazies, this one guy is trying to get his pregnant wife out of there, and he comes to the realization as he's getting arrested that she's been infected, and I think that was a really sad ending. And then Martin, that movie, just like that ending wowed me, just like all of a sudden Martin wakes up and his cousin is standing over him with a fucking with a stake and a hammer, and he just starts pounding into Martin's chest.
Have you ever seen the movie Right at Your Door?
No, I don't think I have.
With Roy Cochran. I think you really like that. Look that one up. Write that one down. It's called Right at Your Door. It came out maybe 15 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago at this point. It's an independent film. Roy Cochran stars in it, and I think he's an artist in the movie or a writer, and he lives in L.A. and his wife works downtown L.A. And so his wife, they have breakfast. She leaves for work in the morning. And towards the afternoon, 11 o'clock or so, he sees on the news that there's been some dirty bombs that went off in downtown Los Angeles. And so he's trying to get downtown because he can't get hold of his wife. And the police are like quarantining everything off, telling everyone to go home, don't go into the city, there's dirty bombs. And he's ordered to go back home. And when he gets back home, they're telling him, seal up your doors, seal up your windows, tape them up, put, whatever. Don't let the air get in there because the air is, infected. It's toxic. And the thing is, there's a guy next door who's like a carpenter or something. He's working on the house next door, kind of Hispanic guy. And he has him come in the house with him. Like, get in the house, So they board everything up, lock everything up. And then his wife shows up at the front door. And she's coughing, and she may be whatever she has. And he has this dilemma. Do I let my wife in? But it's not just do I let my wife in? I've got this man here with me who's I'd be infected too if I open the door. It's when you were talking about the Romero thing, like that kind of, I could have seen Romero doing a movie like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like Night of the Living Dead, crazies kind of thing.
Yeah.
I wanted, when you were, man, I was looking for this. I thought I had it over here, Seth. I don't know if you've ever read this book it's called Suspense with a Camera. I don't know. You can't see us the screen. It's called Suspense.
No.
It's called Suspense with a Camera by Jeffrey Michael Bays, and it's a filmmaker's guide to Hitchcock's techniques.
Ooh.
And it's really fucking good. And he breaks down not just Hitchcock's movies, but also episodes of the Hitchcock TV series, Alfred Hitchcock Presents. And he breaks it down into like 7 or 8 different like setups and story types that Hitchcock would employ and how they work. And I've almost wanted to like test myself to take these kind of outlines of Hitchcock style stories and try to write shorts based upon those things. But it's a great book. I think you would like. I think you would like it. I'll send it to you in a message so you know what it is.
Yeah, please do. Well, because like that reminds me of what was that film he did with Sean Connery, Marnie. There's like one scene in that which was just great suspense, and it was a matter of where people are in the foreground or background. You got this one lady in this room trying to steal something, and then the other half of the screen is out in the it shows out in the outside of the office area, and there's like someone who's doing the cleaning of the office, and it's like that person's getting closer and closer.
I love that scene.
It's such a great moment. Yeah,
it's kind of like in Rope, where the woman's changing the table, where the dead body's in the thing, and they're talking, and the what maid is changing out the thing, and you're like, she's gonna open like it's, and Hitchcock stays on there. You hear the people talking, but it's taking on her. Yeah, the guy was fucking amazing.
Yep. Absolutely, I agree. I love watching those films.
And guys like Carpenter were guys who recognized it. When Hitchcock was popular, the critics just thought he was a hack. They thought he was just all showman. But it was the film nerds, specifically European. I told you about that Truffaut book, right? Where Truffaut interviewed him. It's just called Truffaut Hitchcock. There's actually a documentary about it too. But Truffaut just sat down with Hitchcock and talked about every movie he made, from the silent stuff all the way through. And it's so fun because Hitchcock's like, yeah, that movie sucks. That movie's not good. Like he just shits on all his early movies because he didn't know anything yet. He was learning, but there are things in there. But it was through that interview where Truffaut's like, dude, this guy is our god. He's our godfather. Like, this guy has taught a whole entire generation how to make films and suspense, and where the critics just didn't see it. They just thought he was a carnival act kind of guy. Where here's the trick, and Carpenter's the same way. Carpenter is this genre. I've always felt he's the best genre filmmaker because he gets lopped on the horror, but he's made the action movies and the sci-fi movies and Western type horror movies or whatever. He's just, and he's someone who, like Hitchcock, looks at him in a different way. He has a respect for what he's doing. It's not just schlock. It's not just, he takes it deadly seriously. Just like Hitchcock did. He took that shit seriously. I mean, he had fun, but John has fun too. I mean, Hitchcock, that's the difference between him and Hitchcock. Maybe Hitchcock was playful. But that's the thing. The critics didn't like Halloween until they said, no. Someone like, no, this is like Psycho. This is like Hitchcock. This is not just a hack and slash movie. Halloween's got its roots in Hitchcock.
Yeah, and then Carpenter actually that same year that he made Halloween, he also did Someone's Watching Me, which I feel like is
it could have been a Hitchcock.
That's the most Hitchcock film that Carpenter has made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had Brian De Palma totally ripping off everything Hitchcock did at
Oh,
the same
totally.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. Continuing on with the horror from this period. I don't know how you guys feel about this film, but I have Event Horizon here. I saw that in the theater when it came out, and it kind of wowed me, and I still love it to this day. It's Paul Anderson's best film.
Oh, easily his best movie. Yeah.
But it's got a little bit of a Hellraiser type thing going on with it. I love Sam Neill. Actually, one of the films that I forgot to mention from the previous era, the 6 through 10. I forgot to mention Jurassic Park. I was a huge fan of that since the theater. But like, I love.
I'm sorry, I was okay. I wish that movie came out when I was a kid.
Yeah,
I was like a senior in high school when it came out, and God, I would have fucking loved that movie as a kid.
yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing. When that film came out, I was a kid, and then
Yeah.
A few years later, I read the Michael Crichton book, and the book is even better. But
Did
like,
you see it's coming back to theaters?
Is it?
It's going to be in theaters this month. Or next
Oh, that's
month.
cool.
Yeah, like the Flashback Cinema.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jurassic Park is one of them, and then April, I think it's the first or second week of April, The Godfather is going to play, which I've never seen on the big screen, so I kind of want to go see that. But yeah, Jurassic Park, if you want to see it on the big screen, it's supposed to be coming back this month.
Godfather's my favorite movie.
Or not this month, but next month, March. You ever seen it on the big screen, Ray?
Yeah.
I gotta go check it out. I haven't.
Yeah, it came out. It was like really poor quality because it was like, I don't know if it was like original reels or anything like that. But again, I'm looking at the screen. It was really poor quality, and this was like 2000, 2001. So if it's an enhanced, which I'm sure it is, if it's HD, I'm gonna go. It's why you don't not go see your favorite movie. It's in the theater again, you know. So yeah, it's great to see in the theater. I'd like to see Godfather 2 in the theater, but I don't see that happening. Anyway,
it'll be the 50th anniversary of that one this year, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which means I'm getting close to 50. Shit. I'll be 48 this year. All right.
Uh-oh.
I'll be right back.
All right, Sethy.
Alrighty. Gonna move into the non-horror stuff. Die Hard with a Vengeance, naturally. Great sequel. The big one here, though, is gonna be GoldenEye, because
this is where you got your start.
This is where I became a Bond fan, because I didn't know the character James Bond beforehand. I didn't see any of the Bond stuff, even though my parents were fans. I mean, they're the ones that took me and my brother to go see GoldenEye when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, I don't recall them ever watching the older films. But
we always had TBS, and TBS always did some kind of like week-long Bond marathon. Mm-hmm. It was for movies for guys who like movies or some shit like that, you know. And it was always Bond movies, and that's where it came from me. I saw Live and Let Die, and I was done. I was like, yep, I love these. Yeah.
Yeah, but like seeing GoldenEye in the theater.
Google it.
And being introduced to James Bond with that film. I walked out of the theater loving it. You know, Pierce Brosnan was great. And,
it's a great start for him too.
Oh, absolutely. And it was a good action movie. And so later on that year, I believe it was later on that year, when it came to Christmas time, I asked my parents for the VHS of GoldenEye, and they got me that, but my dad also got me the VHS of Goldfinger.
Oh, nice.
And that's my favorite Bond film to date.
I didn't know that.
But he was like, hey, if you really like GoldenEye, you should, and you like the James Bond character, you should really check out this one. And I loved Goldfinger. And then it just, from there, it just kind of, it took off with me. Like, I would go to like the Kmart from time to time when I had money, and I would try to pick up the VHSs. So I have a few of the VHSs of some of the other Bond films, but yeah, GoldenEye is what kind of really started me off on my path of being a big Bond fan.
You got to come visit me sometime. I used to live like 30 minutes from Fort Knox.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. That's another one. James Bond. I just didn't watch him as a kid. I still haven't seen GoldenEye. I need to see GoldenEye.
You never saw GoldenEye?
I've never seen it. Like
So you've never seen GoldenEye?
I don't know why. Like I've told you guys before. Like Roger Moore was the Bond when I was a kid, and I just didn't like Roger Moore. I just thought I was like this. What? I don't like this guy. I don't. He wasn't. I just didn't find him. I didn't like it.
They made it more comedy.
Yeah, I did
more.
Yeah, they were. I just felt they were silly, and I thought, but it wasn't until I got into high school where I saw like Goldfinger and Dr. No, and I went, "Oh yeah, I like this," because I love Connery. Like by then I'd seen like The Untouchables, and
did you see The Living Daylights or License to Kill? Because those came out. Well,
I remember when those came out and thinking, okay, because I knew Timothy Dalton from Flash Gordon. Like, oh, I know that guy. He's cool. So I did see those. I don't remember them really having an effect on me. Honestly, I didn't really love James Bond until I saw Casino Royale with Daniel Craig. When I saw that, I went, all right, now this is what I'm talking about. And then, I started going back and watching all the Connery stuff because I liked Connery. But yeah, I still haven't seen any of Pierce Brosnan's because I remember not really loving Pierce Brosnan as a kid too, because I knew him from Remington Steele and I thought that was lame. And
Doubtfire.
So
I would say definitely the first three, in my opinion, the first three are really good.
I know GoldenEye is real popular. I mean, even the video game was like really.
Tomorrow Never Dies is really great.
And I was a big Garbage fan, and they did a song for what The World Is Not Enough. And
that's actually one of my favorites of the Bond themes is the Garbage. The World Is Not Enough. Robert Carlyle, you like Robert Carlyle?
I love him. So yeah, those are on those movies. I need to get to those because I haven't. I mean, I would like to just go back and watch all the Bond movies. For a while, they were.
Start from the very first one, Dr. No, and all the way up to what's the newest one called, Seth?
No Time to Die.
No Time to Die, yeah.
Yeah.
Spoiler, that's a lie.
I remember really loving Casino Royale and Skyfall a lot. Like, those are two phenomenal movies.
I think Quantum of Solace is underrated, so that's just me. Anyway.
Yeah, well, what's funny is Nate actually mentioned a movie and I forgot to fucking put it on here. And there's actually several movies I forgot to put on here from some of the earlier periods. So I'm just gonna name them now. The Untouchables. Grew up with that movie. Goddamn, I love it. And then also
excellent film.
And also Goodfellas. I love that film as well. It's one of my favorite mob movies.
I just watched Casino last night. What do you feel about that one?
I love that one too. I actually watched that one a couple months ago.
Yeah.
I love Casino. I may actually like Casino more than Goodfellas, even though I think
I definitely do. I like them both. But
I think Goodfellas is the best gangster movie ever made, but I don't love that movie once he gets into the whole coked out shit.
Agreed. 100% agreed, yeah.
Yeah, that's when it loses me. Like it's like the Full Metal Jacket of gangster movies.
Right. Yeah.
I love the first hour and a half, 2 hours. Then once he gets all coked out,
that's funny. Yeah.
But Casino, Casino's the one I saw in the theaters, and I saw it a couple times in the theaters, and so that one hit at the right time for me because that's when I was really getting into cinema. I was a freshman in college or sophomore in college, and I was going to the theater all the time, and I was really into gangster movies at the time. So that was like maybe one of the first gangster movies I saw in a theater outside of like Pulp Fiction.
Is that like a phase for a fandom phase is gangster movies? Because I feel like I went through a whole phase when I was about 18.
I really have had I really feel that maybe I don't want to be like I don't want to make it like bring gender into it or nothing, but I think young men, when they get into film seriously, there are those movies that you dive into, and there was a book that came out around the time that Tarantino was blowing up called Ultraviolet Movies. It's a really good book, and it's those movies. It's Godfather movies. It's The French Connection, The Wild Bunch, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Clockwork Orange, Apocalypse Now, The Deer Hunter, Straw Dogs. You know, all these like really hard-edged Taxi Driver. They're like these movies that you have to see. Mean Streets, and you kind of go down the Scorsese, De Palma, you know, Peck and Paul, Leone, a lot of the movies that Tarantino loves, the Dirty Harrys and all that, the hard are violent, rough movies. You know, I do think that I know I went through that. You know, I'm watching all those movies at that time, and I just and to the point where like my sister used to say, "Oh, that's a Nathan movie." If there were gangsters in the movie.
Did you ever get the feeling that maybe it was like something we weren't supposed to watch? Also, you know, like not like a nudie movie or something like that, but like I don't know that I'm supposed to be. When I saw Goodfellas, I'm watching. I think I was 10 when that came out. I'm watching. I was like, I don't feel like I should watch this, but I want to watch more of this. It's like I could watch this all day for some reason, you know. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's just a fascination of people who live that kind of lifestyle.
Yeah,
that they live above the law in some ways, or
that's a Steven Seagal movie.
A life and death situation every day. Like you don't know when they're going to take you out. You know, it's and I think you know that's what made Sopranos so popular. Like people just, you know, Sopranos is one of my top 5 shows of all time.
Never seen an episode.
Oh man, you gotta watch The Sopranos. It does live up to the hype because I didn't see it until like right before season 3 started, and it was one of those shows where I watched it and like I had to see them all. And the first 3 seasons, 4th, 5th, first 3 seasons are masterpieces.
Yeah, I watched that show when it first came on. My parents were they were big into gangster movies and stuff, and so they started watching Sopranos, and I was watching it with them. Yeah, it's a really good show. I didn't see all of it. I didn't see how it came to an end, but
will you do an episode about Flash Gordon? No, we probably won't do an episode about Flash Gordon.
Flash Gordon.
Flash Gordon. Okay, I didn't see the Flash part. Of course. What the fuck, man?
We don't do the porn on here.
No.
The horror syndicate.
Maybe the horror syndicate.
Not discourse, but intercourse.
Yeah, the horse syndicate, the intercourse. I like that. Go ahead, Seth.
Okay. Continuing on, my next choice here is Surviving the Game. I'm a sucker for those. I'm a sucker for those type of movies. I know Ice-T isn't the best actor, or at least he wasn't, you know, then. But you get this wonderful. Yes, you get this wonderful monologue from Gary Busey. It's so intense and so cool. And I'm just a sucker for those, you know, humans hunting other people type of stories. I don't know. Surviving the Game is one that I watch a lot even to this day. You know, it's a little corny in certain aspects, but I think it's really cool.
Did you see Jake Johnson's new movie? What's it called? Oh shit! It just came out like a few months ago, or this. It's a comedy, of course, because Jake Johnson from The New Girl. And what was the Spider-Man movie? Yeah, he played the older Peter Parker, the bum Peter Parker. It's called Self-Reliance. And he is, all right, so Tommy receives an invitation to win $1 million by playing a game where he must outwit hunters attempting to kill him. He realizes the hunters can only attack him when he's alone. but none of his friends and family believe the game is real. So I think you would enjoy it. If it's that kind of movie where he signed up to be a contestant, he'll win this money, but they can't touch him if he's with someone. So he's always like he pays a bum to live with him, like a hobo, that kind of thing. Or Anna Kendrick's one is in it, and she plays someone who's also playing the game. So they decide to stay together, kind of thing. And he wrote it and directed it, I think, too. Jake Johnson did.
I like him.
It's on Hulu or something. It's somewhere it's streaming. It was like a straight to. It's on Hulu. If you have Hulu, it's called Self-Reliance.
Well, one of my favorite Stephen King, Richard Bachman novels is The Running Man. The movie is nothing like it, but that book is incredible. Where it's guy is trying to save his family. He signs up for this really fucked up game and he's hunted. It's I don't know. I just enjoy those type of stories.
Like The Pest.
The Pest, yeah.
Isn't that John Leguizamo? Isn't that the same kind of movie?
Yep, pretty much. I haven't seen that in a long time, so
I've never seen it, but I
saw it once. I do like John Leguizamo though.
I like it in serious roles.
Yeah, and I like his little one-man stage show that he used to do, where that was pretty fun.
My next pick here is L.A. Confidential. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
That's a badass movie.
And
good book.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Very well written, very well directed, very well acted, and it's just it grips me from beginning to end, and it's got a really good balance of multiple characters and different personalities, and so I think it's a pretty influential movie for me. It's just with all that,
I remember
it's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, definitely check out L.A. Confidential.
Yeah, I remember it's good. I remember giving someone a note in one of my films about I can't remember what it was, but the Russell Crowe scene during the interrogation, where he's got his hand on the back of the chair. Yeah, that's fucking great. But did you ever see the James Ellroy documentary?
No.
Oh God, I gotta tell the story real quick. James Ellroy, who wrote the book, really cantankerous person, right? Yeah, he's an asshole. Anyway, he starts the documentary. I can't remember what the documentary is called, but it's a James Ellroy documentary. And he's saying that there was a bookstore in his neighborhood that he would go to. And sometimes they would go in there. And he goes, and one time there was this little old lady there. And the clerk said, "Hey, this is Mr. Ellroy. He wrote the book L.A. Confidential." She goes, "Oh my God, I love that movie. I saw that movie." And he's like, "Oh, thank you." And she says, "So did you have fun on the movie set?" And he goes, "Yeah, it was all right." She said, "Is Kim Basinger really a nice person?" He goes, "Yeah, she's okay." She goes, "Oh, I just love that movie." And he said, "Oh, I appreciate it, man, but can I ask you one question?" And she said, "Yeah." He goes, "Did you ever read my book? If you like the movie, did you ever read my book?" She said, "No." He goes, "Then what the fuck good are you to me?"
That's funny.
That's who James Ellroy is. And James Ellroy is like somebody, I think he's written books on the Black Dahlia murders, because I think his mother was murdered. So that's what his obsession is with that stuff. He comes from that world and that darkness.
Yeah, I'm looking up L.A. Confidential. It's on Netflix. I might watch it today.
Yeah, it's great cast, great film. That's a good pick.
That's one that that's always been on my list of things to watch and always forget about it. But yeah, I'm gonna have to watch that one.
Yep.
Did he direct it too?
Elroy didn't. Who directed that one? It was
no, it was Curtis Hanson, right?
Yeah. Guy did 8 Mile.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
He passed away, didn't he? Curtis Hanson.
Yeah, 2016.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at his filmography right now. So anyway, I'm adding that to my list, Seth, just for you. Well,
good.
It's just good as Assault on Precinct 13.
Yeah.
So in 3 years, we'll be talking about, I have seen the Black Dahlia, which he wrote the based on the movies based on his book.
Well, that movie is not very good.
No.
But LA Confidential is.
Just to push through a couple here. One is The Mummy with Brendan Fraser.
Love it.
It's a really fun remake of a not so great Universal horror film. But I think it's a lot of fun. I actually do like Stephen Sommers. I didn't mention Deep Rising, but that's another one I really enjoyed that he made. But I think The Mummy is just a lot of fun from beginning to end. It's actually a good. It's not necessarily a remake of the original 1932 film, but it's more of a remake of The Mummy's Hand, the second film, where it's kind of got like that adventure kind of style to it. It's just a little fun, so I had to put that there. Same, same with I got Starship Troopers on here. I fucking adore that movie.
I do too.
I saw it in the theater with my dad, and when I saw the trailers for it, I just thought it would be just your standard sci-fi movie. So, and I didn't realize that Paul Verhoeven directed it. So,
it's so much like RoboCop, like it's so in spirit, everything.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also like super violent, and it's just it's a load of fun. True Lies is another one. I get a kick out of that movie. I love it every fucking time.
Especially the big dogs.
Yeah, sick bitch takes the ice train.
I love quoting that
line. She took the ice trays.
Yeah. I love the story of that. It's like there's a spy and he's really good at his job, but then he gets distracted because he thinks his wife is having an affair, and it's just it's a lot of fun.
He uses all of his everything he has at his disposal to find out if his wife's actually. That's so good. Yeah.
What something to point out about that movie. I'm looking up when it came out. When was it?
94.
94.
94. And Jamie Lee Curtis was how old?
36.
She was born in 58. So she was in her 30s.
Yeah, like 35, 36.
So I remember when that came out, people making a big deal. Oh, look how hot she is. Look how great she looks. It's like, 36 now, like there are women who are like 56 in movies. Like people are going, holy shit. But I remember it being a big deal in True Lies of how good Jamie Lee Curtis looked at her age.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, she's only 35, 36 years old. Well, but then it was like people just, that was old in the 80s and 90s. Yeah.
Well, they also did a good job in that movie too of sort of like they kind of I don't know the right terminology here, but sort of like dressed her down, like where she was like, like they intentionally kind of made her try to like seem a little bit more uglier than she actually was. So then when you get to that moment when she's in the hotel and she starts to rip apart her dress and just splashes water in her hair and stuff like that, it's like holy shit,
Yeah, but who also Trading Places? Come on.
Yeah.
Let's not forget. I know that was a decade before that, but still.
And that's only 10 years before that.
Yeah. Jamie Lee Curtis was always kind of hot.
She might be perfect.
Oh, I used the picture from Perfect for her birthday. Whenever I put it up for the Horror Syndicate, and it had 27,000 people like it. I mean,
have you seen that? Have you seen that like TikTok video where it's just that part where he's gyrating, dancing? John Travolta is, and they keep playing it. It's just like a loop of him doing that.
I love it. Yeah,
I crack up.
Yeah. Maybe I'll put that up next year for her birthday or this year. Happy birthday, Jamie Lee. Remember that?
All right. So the last thing I'm going to mention for this era is it's kind of a cop out because I already mentioned these earlier, but the Star Wars trilogy, the special editions. I got to go see these movies in the fucking movie theater. I saw them so many times in the theater. I don't know how many times each, but I especially saw Empire probably the most. But Empire and A New Hope are my two favorite Star Wars films of all time. And just, I know that, Lucas kind of butchered them here and there. Yeah, but like getting I mean, at that period in time, I never thought that I would see those films on the big screen. And the fact that I got to see them on the big screen was so exciting to me. Like I literally sat in the front row. Like that's how excited I was to see them on the big screen. So I had to put them in here. I know special editions aren't necessarily beloved by
that was
fans,
a huge deal.
It was, yeah, because I did.
A huge deal.
Yeah, because I did. Yeah. The only one I saw in the theaters was Return of the Jedi.
I didn't get to see any in the theater
in '83. Like I had seen that one, but I was 4 when the second one came out. I was 1 when the first one came out. So yeah, like I remember, like even the commercial where it's like for generations everyone's seen it this way. It's like on a little TV screen, but now the X-wing flies out of the TV. Like I mean, it was huge when that came out because a whole new generation who'd only seen it on a TV were getting to see it on the big screen. And it was, there's some of that extra shit doesn't look good or hold up, but some of it was really cool looking.
Never bothered me. None of it ever bothered me.
Not to mention too, like the posters that they did for those special editions were fucking aces.
Drew posters.
Yeah.
Yes, I got some replicas.
I actually have those on my wall in my living room.
Yeah, those are amazing. I remember, just yeah, I don't know, just the huge Star Wars fan. I was actually born 5 days after Return of the Jedi premiered. Fun fact.
I was born 4 days after Empire came out, and Star Wars shares a birthday with me. So there you go.
Yeah, well, it's funny too because like
what
May 30th. May 30th.
Yeah, so I the day I turned 3, Jedi came out.
We're all May birthdays.
I didn't realize that our birthdays were that close. Nate's was before mine.
Well,
holy shit.
Nate is the guy from Identity, May 10th.
Yep.
No, it's funny though. It's like because of being born like 5 days after Return of the Jedi premiered and being a Gemini, I mistook Gemini with Jedi when I was like,
I'm a Jedi. My side is Jedi.
So I thought I was special for a while. Turns out I'm not so special after all.
What you telling me this? You telling me this Gemini right here wasn't special?
Yep,
he's special. Look at the suspenders.
Look at him. Are you holding your lightsaber there or what?
Yeah,
that's pants are all the way up.
You realize your Schwartz was as big as mine.
Yeah, so there's that. Now moving on to the next category, which is 17 through 21, which is 2000 to 04. This is where I kind of got into my werewolf phase.
Here we go.
I was 17 when I first saw American Werewolf in London.
And, so I was going to ask you that earlier when you brought up Silver Bullet. Okay.
Yep. American Werewolf in London is my favorite horror film of all time, and I absolutely love it. And because of that, I just really got obsessed with werewolves. And then I started watching The Howling and Ginger Snaps and some others. And American Werewolf in London was actually a really big deal for me because I was so I took a class in my high school. We had this department called the Career Development Center, and there was a class called video production. So I took that for 2 years. You could only take it from like 11th and 12th grade. So I took it for those 2 years, and I was learning a lot about, screenwriting, the process of it, and filmmaking, stuff like that. And I was writing a lot, mainly like when I was in the class, like short scripts. But after graduating, I wanted to do a full length script. So my first full length script that I wrote was a Friday the 13th sequel with Tommy Jarvis. And but as I got towards the third act in that, I started having this itch for my own like original script, not something based on IP. And I did a little brainstorming, and then I concocted this werewolf story, which is my baby in a way. Like, this is a story that's close to my heart. Like, I still haven't done shit with it. Like, I wrote like 3 drafts of a full-length screenplay for this werewolf story, and then I keep changing my mind if I want to do it as a novel or, go back and fix the script or whatever. But anyway, like, so werewolves are huge, and my ultimate story that I want to tell is a werewolf story, and it's all because of my obsession with werewolves, starting with American Werewolf in London. I remember I was home one day, and I was scrolling through channels and was on FX or something like that, and I was watching it, and I fell in love with it. So that's my favorite horror film of all time, and it started my obsession with werewolves, and naturally it's got a deep connection with me. Now, I already mentioned The Howlin' and Ginger Snaps, but here's another big one for me, and I know Ray doesn't really care for this one as much. I don't recall how Nate feels about it, but Dog Soldiers. Now, the reason why I'm naming Dog Soldiers is because it actually helped me out in a kind of a rough time. I've always suffered from depression and stuff like that, but I used to go on vacations with my best friend's family. Like, they're my second family. And we went to a beach, and I got distracted by scenery, and I got hit in the lip with a football. That we were playing catch on the beach, and my head, my eyes may have averted elsewhere, and I got hit in the face, and it got sunburnt and infected, and it really swelled out, and then eventually it started cracking. And of course, I was working at a movie theater at the time, so I had to go to work, and I just remember all the looks of disgust that I got from people because of my lip and the way it looked, and a little bit of feeling bad for myself too. When I wasn't working, I stayed home, and one day I'm just sitting on the couch, and I'm really depressed as I'm trying to hold a cloth to my lip as it's cracking and bleeding, and just, keeping in mind all the looks of disgust that I got. And I'm going through the channels, and then I come across the Sci-Fi Channel, and they're playing a movie called Dog Soldiers. It premiered on the Sci-Fi Channel months before it actually released on video. And I got so sucked into that movie. Like, it totally cheered me up. Like, I got pulled into that movie, and I just loved every minute of it that I saw. And I remember the next day, how I looked or not, bad lip be damned. I went into town, went to Blockbuster, and was like, I need to order a copy of Dog Soldiers. And they're like, oh, well, it's not coming out for a while, but we'll put you on the list. And so I have a personal connection with Dog Soldiers because of that time where I was a little feeling bad for myself and shit like that. And it totally cheered me up. So I have that connection with Dog Soldiers.
Yeah, I like that movie. Yes, you said you didn't know my feelings. I loved The Descent. I hadn't seen the Dog Soldiers yet, so I saw Dog Soldiers after that and really, really dug it. And I don't know why that movie's not bigger than it is, but I did get to do the Blu-ray cover for it for Scream Factory.
Yes.
And when they offered it to me because I did The Howling, and they loved how I drew werewolves on the Howling cover. So they thought of me for Dog Soldiers. And when I did Dog Soldiers, I said, "Oh, this is me doing my Predator cover," because there's just seemed like a link to Predator in Dog Soldiers. It's like they would be a good double feature because it's elite, like
Yeah.
soldiers against monsters in the forest or whatever. But the cool thing about that movie, out of all the other Scream Factory movies I did, that was the only movie I remember where I got a shitload of assets from the studio to pull from. So my images on my cover are from images that I don't think were released to the public. They did like photos of all the cast members, behind the scenes, or not just, but posed, like lit pose photos. So I had tons of images from the movie behind the scenes or photo shoots that they did with the cast and their costumes and makeup and everything to pull from to put that cover together. And a lot of those, there's not a lot of stuff out there for that movie. And also, like, that movie never had a good poster or a good cover. So I felt like I gotta get this right, because this movie doesn't really have good artwork. There's those movies, like, that's what I would love to do. Like, there's some movies like The Hills Have Eyes remake. I think that poster's kind of crap, and I would love to do a really good poster for that.
It is. You should just do it for fun.
Yeah. I remember, like, first time I felt that was when I saw Scream's poster, because I loved Scream so much, and I went to look to buy a Scream poster, and it was just the Drew Barrymore thing, and I went, "This is it. What? I don't want that on my wall. That looks like shit. Like, where's the cool poster?" Because I grew up in the '80s when horror movie posters looked cool. I know the Nightmare on Elm Street posters and all that, like, they were just awesome. Anyway, I went on a tangent, but yeah, Dog Soldiers is a movie that I do really like, and I love. This is what's so good about this show. This idea is, I don't know if you'd ever told that story unless we covered Dog Soldiers.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and so thank you for sharing that, and you made me, that was worth this whole episode to hear that. And that's what's really cool. And that's why I don't like shitting on movies, because someone could sit there and shit on Dog Soldiers, but that shit had so much meaning to you and when you needed it. And that's what's cool about art, whether it's music or movies or comics or whatever. They can get people through so many hard fucking times. And that's why I just don't. I get people who like to be proud and say, "Oh, well, I'm better and smarter than you all. That movie sucks. I don't know what movie you all watched and all that." But I'm like, dude, somebody has a connection to that, and it's a beautiful thing. And fuck you for fucking with it. Fuck you for ruining their day or trying to tear them down or make fun of them for liking it or feeling that way about it. Because we all have those. We all have those movies or pieces of work that meant something to us that other people think are shit. And it's like, it doesn't matter to us. But at the same time, we don't like people making fun of it or beating it up or tearing it down. Like someone saying Dream Master is the worst movie ever made. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
So that's what I like. What I like about our show, because there's a lot of, and maybe other people don't, but there's a lot of shows like this out there. And I did a lot of podcasts. I've talked to you all about this because I did the Horror Syndicate a few times as a guest before I became a part of it. And I did a lot of podcasts because of my career in films and art. And at least 50% of the shows I would do, I would be there with a bunch of guys who were drinking and just shitting on everything, and this sucks dick, and that's a piece of shit, and all that. And I'm sitting there like, what? I was like, and then I would be the guy going, well, actually, and I would, and
You're the Oscar. Well, actually,
yeah, I'm the actually guy. But the thing is, they wouldn't know what to say because I would have all this wealth of information to counteract what they were saying, and they were just like, this jerk, and I'm like saying shit, and I'm like, So when I did the Horror Syndicate, I was like, well, these guys fucking know what they're talking about and actually love films. I got that from Ray. I got that from Jared. And then when Seth, when you joined, I was like, yeah, I like this show. I like these guys because they love this shit for real. Yeah. You're here to celebrate. Like, you're here to celebrate this genre. Mm-hmm. And that's what I like. I don't want to sit around shitting on stuff and trying to feel superior to.
Except for Mandy. Hey, would you guys mind if I got to put Helena to bed real fast? I'll be back in a couple minutes. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, but thanks for sharing that, Seth.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you, Seth. I didn't want to
Yeah,
shit on your thing just then. But yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. That's one of the things I love about movies in general, by the way, is the power and effect. When Elizabeth died, I delved deep into horror, and horror is really what got me not out of it, because I'm still not out of it, but really helped me through that and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But I'll be right back.
Yeah. Well, certain movies, they can just, distract you, or,
Yeah.
they can kind of lighten you up a little bit and change your mood. I got certain movies that I watch when I'm in a certain mood, like if I'm angry. If I'm angry, I'm going to watch Wanted for some reason, because it's sort of like that, especially if I'm angry at work, because it's kind of got that sort of fantasy element to it. This guy who's had enough and all that. Or if like I'm upset, like when the Buffalo Bills lost in the playoffs, I immediately put in Elm Street 4. I have my sort of like
You have
trigger
those-
movies.
Yeah, the trigger things like, oh, all right, I'm driving home, I'm pissed off, throw on a Pantera song or throw on an Eminem song or whatever. Like I'm gonna get angry. I need to let off some steam and curse.
Yep.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Yep. Now to move on, 2 more werewolf movies to name drop. Bad Moon. I love that. I love the look of the werewolf in that. I think it's got a great story. I like it being a story where the dog is sort of like the protagonist, and I just kind of like the sort of like the back and forth between Ted and the dog. It's just it's kind of funny. And then of course there's Wolfen, which is debatable as a werewolf movie, but I think Albert Finney's really good in it, and the third act is awesome.
That was a cool movie. I haven't seen that in a long time. And one of my favorite things about Wolfen is the scene in Dream Team.
Yeah,
the Dream Team where he's talking about, you see that movie Wolfen? They shot that down here. That was real. It was a true story. He's like freaking out.
Yeah.
Oh, did you hear that?
Yeah.
What the hell was that? And then he starts, they're sitting in the van. He goes, what the hell was that? Did you hear that?
Yeah.
You see that movie Wolfen? They shot that here.
Yeah.
That's an underrated Michael Keaton movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Wolfen, it's the third werewolf movie. I don't know the order of release, but I'm saying it's the third werewolf movie of '81, and it's usually because some people don't consider it a werewolf movie, and I understand.
They weren't werewolves, were they? Or was it?
No, not really. Yeah. It's more of like a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
But it's I enjoy it quite a bit. Moving on, this is also a period of time where I mentioned Needful Things earlier, and how that kind of led me to kind of dive into Stephen King's books later on in life, and this is the point where I did start reading Stephen King. And the first Stephen King book I've ever read was Salem's Lot, and then I watched the Tobe Hooper 2-part movie, whatever it is, after, and it's phenomenal. But so I got Salem's Lot, The Dark Half, Carrie, The Stand, and The Shining, of course. And I think I saw The Shining a little bit earlier on in life, but I was diving into Stephen King's books, and I was diving into all the movies based on his books around this time, and he's one of my favorite authors of all time. There's a period of time where I was only reading Stephen King, and then I eventually knocked that off, because you need to, especially if you're creative, you need to experience other types of artists, and all that. But
who were some of the other did you get into reading a lot of horror novels?
What's that?
Did you start reading a lot of horror books at that time too, not just King?
Yeah.
Yep. Who were just? I know you love writing and books. Who would you say are your top 5 horror writers, book wise, not screenwriters, but
book wise? Let's see.
Or novelists, I guess would be the term.
Yeah. So Stephen King, naturally. I kind of want to say Dean Koontz, but I've only read his Odd Thomas series, which I highly recommend, and his Frankenstein series.
I've always wanted to read Intensity. I started it because they say that's what High Tension ripped off.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they did make a movie of Intensity. I think is what it's called, with John C. McGinley.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, Dean Koontz was one of the I haven't read a lot of his though.
Oh, naturally, Clive Barker.
Yeah.
I love the Hellbound Heart, Cabal, Scarlet Gospels. I read, I think, the first two Books of Blood. Yeah, so Clive Barker is really good. I really love Jason Pargin, who does the John Dies at the End series. They're like cosmic horror, written by a smartass, and I love those. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to glance at my bookshelf.
You read a lot of Richard Matheson. Have you read any of his books, other than like I Am Legend or?
Yes, I Am Legend, and what the hell? There's another one I really like.
Well, there's Hell House.
Hell House is good.
There's one he did called Hunted, or damn, I read one. It was one he wrote like in the 90s, early 2000s. That was really good. It was like these two guys and they were hunting each other. You might like that one. It's like as they were hunting each other in the woods. When that Benicio del Toro movie came out, I thought it was like that. I thought that's what it was. I thought it was I think it was Hunted Past Reason or something like that. I read it when it came out because it's one of his later books.
I'll have to check that out.
And I know that's that's King's Hero, right? Richard Matheson.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Bedtime Ritual.
Shit, what is it called?
Also, Gary Brandner, the Howland trilogy. Speaking of werewolves, around this time, those books are awesome. I actually revisit them quite a bit. I've only read his Howland trilogy. I haven't read anything else that he's done, but
yeah, it's called Hunted Past Reason. It came out in 2002, and let's see if it has a synopsis here. I could read to you guys. Shit, where's it at? Yeah, I think you dig this one because it feels like the man's most dangerous game thing. It was supposed to be just an ordinary camping trip. Two old friends hiking through the wilderness toward a remote cabin in the woods of Northern California, but the enforced isolation of the hike soon exposes long-hidden rivalries and resentments between the two men. The deeper they get into the primeval wilderness and the farther from civilization, the greater the tension between them becomes, until the simmering hostility erupts into a terrifying life-or-death battle for survival. It's almost kind of like that movie The Edge, too, with Anthony Hopkins and Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think you'd like that. Hunted Past Reason. Did you ever read any of Jack Ketchum stuff?
No, I don't. I haven't, but I should.
Rough stuff. I got to actually know him and be friends with him before he passed away. But I read, I rented that movie adaptation of The Girl Next Door, which is a really hard movie to watch based on a true story. A lot of his stuff's based on a true story. And then I read the book and I was like, oh, fuck. And then I read his first book, which was called Off Season. And tough. So he's part of that whole splatterpunk movement that him and there's another one that's really good. Another writer, Richard Lehman. And Richard Lehman. Who's the guy? The guy that wrote, was it David Scull? He wrote a bunch of films.
Oh yeah. He wrote.
He wrote one of the Nightmare scripts, right, for part 5 or 6.
Yeah, and he also wrote, I think, The Crow, City of Angels. He wrote something else I can't think of right now, but yeah.
Yeah, he's part of that Splatterpunk, and then it's Richard Lehman, Jack Ketchum, and something Lee. Oh, fuck, I can't. I've read all. There's a book that Jack gave me when I met him that it's really cool. You might dig it. We talked about writing exercises.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Triage, and it's Richard Lehman, Jack Ketchum, and Edward Lee. That's the other guy. And basically, they wrote this book. It's 3 short stories with the same setup. A guy walks into a building, starts shooting. And so it's 3 stories, completely different, but with that setup or that kind of like they do with the. Yeah, it was really good, and I really like Jack's and Richard's. Were both my favorites of it. You might like that. I think it's called Triage. He gave me a signed copy of that when I met him, and but I think you'd dig him. But yeah, he's a really good writer, but it's really hard stuff. It's really hardcore, violent, fucked up. Especially off seasons of a book. Off seasons based on the Sonny Bean legend, like Hills Have Eyes was, the cannibalistic. I don't know if you ever saw the movie The Woman.
No.
The guy that made May. What's his name? He made May. You know, you guys ever see May?
No.
Oh, that's good. Lucky McKee. God, we need to do some of his movies. May's like a really, really good movie. But the movie The Woman I really liked, and that was a book that Lucky and Jack hooked up and wrote a book based on his off season. It's actually the 3rd story in the off season series, and they made a movie called The Woman. I don't know, I'm rambling, but yeah, that's one of my guys. Did you have like what we had? Like I think you named 4, right? You have a 5th? Did you read John Saul?
Nope.
He was kind of big in the 80s with Stephen King. Like, I remember it was basically King and Saul, John Saul. And he wrote a couple really good books. One I remember liking was Nathaniel, and another one was called Hellfire. I would recommend those too.
Yeah.
I think you'd like, if you like Stephen King, I think you'd like John Saul.
Man, I'm drawing a blank here. I'm like trying to see my books,
Right.
and I'm also
it's okay.
And I'm also trying to like think of what, because I also have a.
You don't want to leave somebody off, too. That's what's hard. The 5th is always the hard one. Like, these guys definitely like, but who? I don't want to leave this person off.
Yeah. I'm also trying to think too, because I have an Audible account and like I listen to audiobooks at work.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm like forgetting someone big, but anyway, yeah. I'll have to get back to you on that one.
Okay.
I'm gonna move on to the non-horror of this time period. Spider-Man 1 and 2, Sam Raimi's films, my favorite superhero films of all time. I saw the first Spider-Man movie in the theaters 13 times.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, how exciting was it? How exciting was it to see Spider-Man swinging through New York City for the first
100%.
time? Amazing. It's like when Wolverine popped the claws in X-Men 1. Like, oh.
Yeah, well, like, Spider-Man is my favorite superhero, and like I have more Spider-Man comics than any other comic, and and I used to love the animated series, and I was just super excited to see a live-action Spider-Man movie, and the first 12 times were during its original theatrical run, and the 13th time is actually like a few months later, they re-released it as a double feature with Men in Black 2, and I was like, okay. I didn't really care for Men in Black 2, but I used the opportunity to see Spider-Man one last time on the big screen. Yeah, so I was super excited, obviously. Probably the most I've got. Like literally the first week I went every single day of the week to see Spider-Man. Every single day of the week. That's
I
how
don't
much
think
of
I've
a
ever
nerd
seen
I
a
am.
movie that many times in the theater. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I've never seen anything that many times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Pulp
I mean,
Fiction
it's
was my
funny too.
top.
'Cause-
That's also good.
Well, it's funny too because Spider-Man 2 is my favorite Spider-Man movie and my favorite superhero film of all time. But I think I only made it to eight times with that one.
It's a good shit.
So
That's a good choice for best.
You were busier that year.
rookie numbers, I know. But yeah, Spider-Man 1 and 2 were huge for me when they came out because I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. I also have X-Men 1 and 2 down. You know, like the thing is like I'm trying to save some of this for when Ray and I do our shows on the X-Men, but you know, like I understand that it wasn't a perfect adaptation of the X-Men,
Mhm.
but it was still exciting to see some of those characters on the screen. And Hugh Jackman, I know he's not 5'3", but my God, he is the best Wolverine ever.
Oh
He's
yeah,
the only
no
Wolverine.
no one's ever gonna top Hugh Jackman in that
Yeah.
role.
Yeah. So
And, yeah.
X-Men 1 and 2, I thought I still think are phenomenal. I also have this is also the period of time where I was
Remember how
checking out.
cool?
What's
How
that?
cool! Remember how awesome it was? Like we were such superhero movie virgins at the time. Just how cool the Nightcrawler opening was in X2.
Oh yeah,
How cool
Still
that
holds
shit
up.
was.
Still holds up.
yeah, and it's funny too because like we're talking about a time period where superhero films were barely
Still new, really.
Yeah,
Other than
they're
because we
barely a
saw
thing.
Superman and Batman, and you know little anomalies like the Crow and Blade.
Exactly.
But like
And-
when X-Men came out, it was like it was the beginning. It really was. Like people say the Blade. I'm like, yeah, but Blade to me doesn't count because Blade he was an obscure comic book character, and it was just as much a horror movie as it was a comic book movie. But the X-Men movie and then the Spider-Man movie was like,
Yeah.
all right, these are superhero movies. This is what we hadn't seen since Batman came out.
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
it's funny because people say Blade, but I mean technically Men in Black was before that. Men in Black is a Marvel comic.
Yeah.
But you know, like you said about Blade too, is like he was a side character in the Tomb of Dracula long before he got his own series. Cool character and cool comic, whatever. But
Very
yeah,
obscure.
like with X-Men kind of came out, it was kind of like it was almost like the filmmakers were almost a little kind of embarrassed to do a comic book movie, so that's why we had the black leather and all that. But then when Spider-Man came out, it was like you could do the costumes, you could do the colorful costumes, and I think
there was such weight to the X-Men in the beginning with like the whole opening with Magneto and Nazi Germany and that whole it was like, oh wow, they're handling this seriously, like Chris Claremont did. Like when you read those X-Men books, the X-Men books were the mature books. They're very grown up. Whereas Stan Lee's Spider-Man is some of the funnest fucking comic books I ever read.
Yeah, I agree. Next up, this is when I started experiencing Kevin Smith's films. So I got Clerks, Mallrats, and Dogma.
Mm-hmm.
They're fucking hilarious. They were more hilarious back then than they are now, but I love those.
Yeah, those first 4 or 5 movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still love them today.
And then just a couple others here. The movie Three Kings with George Clooney and Mark Wahlberg and Ice Cube. I love that movie. It's a lot of fun for me.
It's a good one. I like it too.
Yeah. I enjoy revisiting. I don't.
What's that? Who directed that one again?
David O. Russell.
Okay, David O. Russell.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I actually still have the VHS tape of that, but I remember watching it for the first time and just kind of really kind of getting pulled into it. And again, there's a good balance of like multiple characters. So I enjoy it. I also have Full Metal Jacket on my list. I love that film. I know that the first half is better than the second half, but I still enjoyed the second half as well.
Second
a
half's
lot of the
great.
Vietnam
It's
stuff.
just that boot
Yeah.
camp stuff is so good.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Arlie Ermy, for that. That's
Yeah.
a lot of him. And Vincent D'Onofrio, you know.
I remember my parents went to see it on a date night in '86, right? That's when it came out.
87.
86, 87, yeah, they went and saw it on date night. And I remember that's all they talked about was that guy, the stuff he said. You know, of course, I was 10, 11 years old. So they won't repeat it, but yeah, I remember I remember that's all they could talk about was that drill sergeant. And when I saw the movie, I'm like, God damn, this is so fun.
That was kind of a revered movie for me. Like that was one like people would talk about it. I was like, I gotta see this movie. You know, it's like one of those movies that people talked about so much, like Reservoir Dogs. You know, that people just talked about. I was like,
Yeah.
damn, I gotta see what they're talking about. You know,
I remember me and my buddy Jason when I got into movies. My buddy Jason Monks, who I ended up doing comic books with, we would watch these movies as Tarantino's and The Bad Lieutenant and Clockwork Orange and all that. And Full Metal Jacket was one we would and we always did the Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jesus. Today is Christmas. We would just go around saying that shit. We worked at Winn-Dixie, the grocery store. We would be saying that shit in the back. It just made me think of that. We used to do that. Today is Christmas. There will be what was it? There'll be a show at 5 or I can't remember what he said.
Yeah.
Good movie.
Yep. And then lastly, I'm gonna say the original series of the Planet of the Apes films. Now, I saw the original film, the first one, the Charlton Heston film, when I was younger, but right before Tim Burton's remake came out, I somehow caught the whole series, and to this day, I'm a big Planet of the Apes fan. I think the fourth film is fucking underrated as hell. It's dark. It's the first time that Caesar kind of rises up, and it's dark and it's great. But yeah, I just wanted to throw Planet of the Apes on there because I am a big fan. So that rounds out that era. And lastly, we're getting to 22 to present. So 22 to almost 41.
Are you talking about Planet of the Apes? Talking about the new ones?
No, that was I was talking about the original series.
Oh, okay.
I've never seen any of those. Just for the record,
You never seen any of Planet of the Apes?
no. I cannot watch them. I've tried. It's the prosthetic they wear.
What about the new ones though?
The new ones, I adore those movies. Those are fantastic. Yeah. Starting with Dawn, or not Dawn. What was the first one?
Rise.
Yeah, Dawn should have been the first title, but anyway, yeah, no, I love that first one the way it is, and then goes the third one. Is it the one Matt Reeves did?
War for the Planet of the Apes?
Yeah, they're just all really good. I'm stoked about the new one, but yeah, the old ones I like. The prosthetics, I can't not watch them and not laugh. It's so hard to watch them for me. It's nothing against them. I'm sure they're fine movies, but they just, oh God, I can't look at the prosthetic without laughing. It's one of those things, you ever seen something that no matter what, you laugh at it? That's the Planet of the Apes prosthetics. I can't. I've tried. I've tried. I'm thinking about it.
I think I'm like you, though.
Sorry.
I did go back and watch them when the remake came out because I didn't really know the Planet of the Apes because that's the generation before me. And
there's the one where they're like living amongst people. And
they're fun though. They're a lot of fun.
I'm sorry, not to shit on your love for them or anything, Seth. That's the only reason I can't watch them is because I can't not laugh at how silly they are. Anyway.
Oh, look, I mean, The fourth film is the most violent. I would check that one out.
Which one
Which
is
one's
that?
the one where they're like driving cars and shit?
Which one was the fourth one?
Conquest of the Planet of the Apes.
Conquest.
Okay, let me look at
Well,
that.
because it's fun because like Roddy McDowall, he played an ape who was like sort of like a pacifist in the first and the third film, but in the fourth film he plays the son Caesar, and it's a very dark role. It's a very dark turn. So it was kind of cool seeing Roddy McDowall kind of play differently than he has before, where it's very much more of a serious and nuanced performance. I don't know. I mean, I love the originals. I think the new trilogy is my favorite three of the franchise, but and those are actually on my list of from 22 to present. But I don't know. I've always enjoyed the original series. Not so much part 2, because part 2 is weird, and part 5, which I feel like is a huge letdown after part 4.
Is that Battle?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that one for the most part.
Yeah, that one's a little goofy.
That might be the one that makes me laugh.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I know there's one that I watched that I could. And then, the worst part is I have these friends that are like huge fans of these movies. And I went to Dragon Con, down in Atlanta. And they're like, hey, meet us at such and such. And they were in Planet of the Apes costumes. I couldn't even look at them. I couldn't. Like, their masks were perfect. They were great. But I could not even look at them. I was tearing up every time I'd look at them. Sorry, it's a weird thing. Go ahead. Sorry, Seth.
Okay, well, anyway, 22 to present, which is 22 to almost 41 now. For horror, this is the one where I kind of struggled of finding, there's a lot of modern films that I like, but I kind of struggled with listing them. But for horror, I put Land of the Dead. I think that's an underrated film. I don't understand why people shit on it. But I love seeing it in the theater, and I still love watching it to this day. I got some of the underworld movies on my list here because I love werewolves, and I don't know, just something when they came out, it was cool. And part 2 has an awesome looking werewolf, and then part 3.
That's all about the werewolves, isn't it? The third one.
Exactly, and that's why I actually gravitate towards part 3. Like, I know a lot of people hate it.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of people hate it.
I remember liking it. That's when Michael Sheen was kind of the main character, wasn't he?
Well, exactly, and that's the thing is the character Lucian was my favorite character from the first film.
Yeah.
And
he didn't get that much screen time in the first one.
Yeah, and seeing him take the lead in the third film was really, really cool. I just wish it was a little bit longer than it was. But yeah, so I like those. I have Late Phases on this list. That's one of my favorite modern werewolf films. It makes my top 5 of werewolf films.
Of all time?
I just thought, yeah, because it's such a cool story, cool character. Nick Dimici's character is so cool, and
way too young to be in Vietnam, though.
Yeah, I understand. Like, some of the makeup doesn't work, and a lot of people don't care for the werewolf designs, and I can understand why.
Yeah, that's what got me, because I like the film, the werewolves, like Ray laughing about the monkeys, the apes. Like, when I see when I see the werewolves in that movie, I'm like, oh god, because they're not. I mean, they're
like hyenas almost.
Well, but it's also the way they move or their walk. Like, it felt weird. I remember there's one where like one of them passes by a window and like,
oh yeah,
what the, that it made me laugh, and I went, what? And but yeah, I'm not trying to shit on the movie because I like Nick, and I think the movie was one of the better or best werewolf movies I've ever seen. But yeah, the werewolves themselves, the way they did them, and the costumes aren't that bad. It's just the movement or something. It was like comical to me for some reason, and I went, man, I wish they just didn't show the werewolves. Because I thought it was a really. I remember liking the movie, and I bought it. So so I dig it. I need to go back and watch it, but I just remember the werewolves were kind of like, I don't know about these werewolves. But, I mean, it's like they were like the Bigfoot footage of walking around. Like, I don't know. There was something about the way they moved that I'm like, I don't like their movement.
Yeah. Hey, I gotta take 5 minutes real quick. The good boy really needs to go outside right now.
Okay.
Love you, bud.
Okay, but I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'm here. I had to say goodnight to Reynolds.
Good night, Reynolds.
I just looked, and their April 7th is when The Godfather's coming out,
April
and I was like, he's never seen it before, and he's been getting into like watching all kinds of different movies and such, and like we talked about the Tarantino stuff, and I was like, this might be the best way for you to see The Godfather on the big screen. So
see it on the big screen.
Well, yeah, because I showed them Psycho, Rosemary's Baby, I think Jaws was all on the big screen, and so I think I'm gonna make a date with him to go see it on the big screen on April 7th. It's only $11, so at my theater. Actually, it's not even my theater. It's playing about 30 minutes from me, but I'm still gonna go. It's your favorite movie is playing. You go see it. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, I mean, I Taxi Driver played. I had to go see that.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's some. I mean, Godfather's never been one of my favorite movies. That isn't to say I don't like it or I think it's amazing. Yeah. It's just never connected to me, but I have a huge love for it. By the way, do you have that book of Francis Ford Coppola's Bible that he made?
No.
Oh, dude, I got this book. I bought it. Just I even showed it to my directing teacher. Because when we were doing Jekyll and Hyde, I would look at his script, and and he I had all these notes all over his script, and I said that reminds me of Coppola's, because Coppola, of course, adapted the novel. So when he when he did the book, he has his a lot of filmmakers or stage directors will have it, but he would rip pages out of the book and he would make notes and what he wanted to have and all this. And basically he had a whole tome of everything he worked out, all his notes, everything that he did, and drawings and notes and other pieces and inspiration that he had while he was putting The Godfather together. And they recreated it. They reproduced his entire, his personal book. I can't remember what it's called, but it's well worth just seeing it, just to see the amount of work that goes into.
Give me an image of it, so maybe I can track it down.
Okay, I got it. I'd grab it because it's in the living room. I know I just cleaned the living room.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, just snap a picture.
I'll take a picture of it, show you. But it's something I say I have to see this just to see. That's the thing I want to when people shit on filmmakers or say, well, this is, if you're doing it right, this is the amount of work that goes into preparation of making a film. This is how much thought went into every fucking second of that movie. And so, and I know a lot of filmmakers do that. And I mean, I've never gone to the Francis Ford Coppola level, but
not yet.
But that guy's a fucking genius. I mean, you watch Heart of Darkness and you can see how obsessive and crazy that guy is. But, I'll take a picture of that. But
The Godfather was a movie that I saw when I was 19, maybe 20, and it was always one of those movies that I knew, my stepdad liked, and older people older than me liked, in their 30s or whatever. And I finally sat down and watched it. My friend Sean let me borrow it, and it was a VHS, and it had 2 tapes. I'm like, oh my god, how long is this movie?
Not everything's that long.
All right, and
Right?
the
How long
opening,
is it? Is it 3 hours or is it two and a half
it's
hours?
over 3 hours, yeah.
Okay.
And it's the opening scene is the wedding, and that's where like you start to get to know all these different characters because they introduce everyone in that
Yeah.
scene, and it's so great. And they go into the family business, and the thing I like about it is it's a story told over the course of like 5 or 6 years, and you
Yeah.
think that you're going to follow Marlon Brando around, and they shoot him very early on in the movie, and it's more about the rise. It's Michael Corleone's story, and that's why I like two so well. And it's about respect and power, and just so much going on. I love that movie so much, and it's one of those movies that I don't know why it makes me smile, but I think it's between the acting, the dialogue is so fucking sharp, and the cinematography, everything. The score is beyond beautiful. It's just, I mean, I feel like Star Wars is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I feel like it's a cop out because I'm a Star Wars fan to say it's my favorite movie. But
well, they both of those movies have ties to Kurosawa.
Yeah,
because The Godfather, I watched all of Kurosawa's movies like a year or two ago, and he made a movie based on Hamlet called The Bad Sleep Well with Toshiro Mifune. And the opening of The Bad Sleep Well is basically the opening to The Godfather. Like Coppola stole that from The Bad Sleep Well. Like it's a wedding, and there's a business thing going on at the wedding, and I didn't love, but The Bad Sleep Well is based on Hamlet, and I didn't love that. Bad Sleep Well is not one of my favorite Kurosawa movies, but when I watched it, I'm like, holy shit, this is totally where The Godfather came from. Like you could see it. And he spends like 20 minutes on that wedding scene in the opening of the movie.
Yeah.
It's like a big bulk of the movie.
You get to know almost every character. The only one you don't get to meet are the Tatayas and what's the main bad guy's name? I can't remember his name offhand. But it's such a great way to introduce all the characters, like even the main head of the five families. It's good stuff, man. I love that movie.
And you get to
I'm not a big gangster movie guy either. I like them, but that's not my thing, you know.
Yeah.
Seth back?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, Seth.
That's okay. Moving forward, I'm just gonna name a couple here. Stakeland, love it. Nightbreed, the director's cut, I absolutely love it. And actually, when I did finally see it for the first time, I was obsessed with that movie. I was obsessed with that story. I love the idea of a movie where the monsters are the protagonist and the humans are the antagonist.
I believe we premiered that at Horror Hound Weekend. I think it was the first time it was ever shown.
Yeah. Like I was obsessed with it, and I actually got the rare Cabal cut. I was lucky to snatch it up before because it was like limited release, and they sold out pretty quickly. But yeah, I love Nightbreed. I don't think either of you guys are big fans of it, right? If I remember correctly.
I'm not really
not big fan. I think I like the book more, right? I won't call myself a fan. I don't dislike it. I think it has a lot of cool elements, and I like.
I think it's a good movie overall, but like it's just okay for me, you know. Like I'm not like enthralled by it. Maybe it's the cut I saw, you know. I don't know.
Are you a big fantasy guy, Seth? Is that what you think you lean towards? Are you a big fan of fantasy?
Not really.
Not really.
But I think the appeal for Nightbreed for me is like I'm big into monsters, and I like all the different unique looks of all the monsters in that. I love Danny Elfman's score for it.
Yeah,
and
that makes a lot of sense because I remember that's what Clive Barker. I remember that opening of the VHS tape where Barker is talking about. I've always been in love with monsters or fascinated with monsters. And he's walking around. He has like sculptures of all the Midian creatures, and I remember him talking about that. Yeah. I've always loved monsters. So that movie is totally. It really does fit into the Universal thing in some ways. These misunderstood. They're the good guys in many ways.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, there's I could see I never thought about it that way, but there's ties to Frankenstein and the Wolfman and all that. Where yeah,
Yep. I also have Lord of Illusions on here. I love it.
I like that one.
It's a good one.
Yeah. And it's actually funny because apparently Doug Bradley said that he would love to return as Pinhead or the Hell Priest for a adaptation of the Scarlet Gospels. And my first thought is, please do and bring back Scott Bakula as Harry Demore, because he's a major character in that book. It'd be kind of really fun to see both of them reprise those roles.
Oh yeah.
But Lord of Illusions is really cool.
I would love to see Scott Bakula come back as Harry Demore in something. That'd be great.
Did they ever do that remake of Quantum Leap? There was supposed to be a new series. Did they do it?
Yeah. It's been out for a couple of years now, I think. But Bakula refused to be part of it. The next thing I have on here is the Wolfman remake. I'm specifically talking about the unrated director's cut. It's one of those movies I will defend to my grave. I don't understand why I get shit on. It's unfortunate too. Like, everyone kind of seems to remember the shitty CGI for the 2 or 3 moments where there's CGI in it, but they dismiss Rick Baker's amazing practical effects work. And I wrote a whole article where I basically talked about the 2 different cuts, the theatrical and then the unrated cut, and I defended that movie. And then to kind of wrap up the horror side here, I put The Walking Dead seasons 1 through 6. I was obsessed with Walking Dead for a period of time before I lost interest. I particularly love. I'm like one of the only weirdos as far as this opinion goes, but season 2 of The Walking Dead is my favorite season. I just, it's like, I don't know, it's half Frank Darabont, and then of course he got fired, but there's such an intensity to it, and I love the Shane character, and I love the way that they extended the Shane character, because he died in issue 6 in the comics.
Yeah, I like that he died in issue 6. I hated him in the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm not all over John Bernthal nuts either. I'm not a big fan of his. I know everybody loves him, but I don't.
Well, I thought he was good. I thought he was good for the character, and I kind of liked how they kind of explored more and more of him snapping, being a part of the group and all that. So I love season 2, but the first 6 seasons are really good, and I was obsessed with the show for a while, to the point where, like, when the new episode aired every Sunday, I had to be there.
I was, I think a lot of us were.
Did the new show start today?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I saw the trailer for that at the theater yesterday.
Yeah, I've been toying with the idea of rebuying the comics that are all in color now, because I have all of them, the black and white ones. Yeah. What was season 6? Which one was that?
That was just before Negan. It was where, I'm trying to think. Ethan Embry was in the first episode. I think it was where Rick and crew, they were kind of starting to lead Alexandria, the townspeople of Alexandria. And like there was like hints towards Negan. They, like, later in the season, they came across like some of his cronies.
Yeah, they kept talking about him before he showed up.
Yeah.
I was a big fan. I mean, I loved the comics, and I was really looking forward to the show. And the show, people started shitting on it immediately on season 2, but I dug it all the way through, and I just go, all right, fuck y'all. Like, people just try to downplay, even to the point saying it wasn't horror. I'm like, how the fuck can you say this isn't horror? It's horror. Oh, there's no zombies. Like, it was never about the zombies. The comic
it's
was
a drama,
zombies.
Really. Yeah.
Just like Romero's movies are not about the zombies.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I didn't get the back. It's because it was so popular. It's because grandma watched it. It's because your aunt and uncle watched it. It's because everyone watched it.
Yeah. The popularity was so
Yeah.
wide that it was cooler to not like it, I guess.
Yeah, it was definitely cooler to not like The Walking Dead, say it was a piece of shit and it was awful. I was like, no, it wasn't. It was some of the best TV out there.
Oh,
And
okay. So I had to think about what season 2 was. That's when Carl got shot, and they went to Herschel's farm,
I
right?
mean, Herschel's
Yes.
Farm the whole season.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, season 2 was really good. I'm not a fan of John Bernthal. Just not a fan of him.
And then like season 3 was good, but like the thing is like the prison story arc in the comics, which was like if you think about it in terms of the trade paperbacks, it was like volumes 3 through 8. It was epic.
It was so good. Yeah,
it was. That's peak Walking Dead.
Yeah,
and they didn't quite,
oh my god.
Yeah, they didn't quite do that storyline justice, but
I mean,
I
Rick
didn't
still
really.
has 10. Just saying.
Yeah, yeah, but there was a period of time where I loved that show, and then there was a period of time where I just kind of fell out of love with it.
It was in it was in that after Negan showed up period where the showrunner, what was the guy's name that was running it at the time?
Scott Gimple.
Scott Gimple. Yeah, he started to get a little too experimental, and they were starting to stretch. I guess because of the availability, maybe of Jeffrey Dean Morgan and some of the other actors. They were off doing other things. That all of the episodes started becoming contained about this actor, and they were all spread out. And they had like the junkyard people and Negan and the beach people and all that. And it was like, all right, so we'd be here this week on the beach, and then next week we're in the junkyard, and the next week we're over here. And it's like, well, where's Rick? Where's Negan? Where are our main characters at? Like, we're leaving them for a month, and we're going off with this one character who's a side character, and it's like, yeah, it's a cool story, but I don't want to leave my main characters for a month or 3 weeks. Like
the writing in the show got sloppy too. I mean, I remember season 7 or 8, one of those seasons where I checked out. There's a scene where Rick goes to confront Negan, and Negan's in plain view to get shot, but like they have this whole exchange of dialogue, and I'm just like, shoot the motherfucker.
Shoot the motherfucker. Yeah, I remember that. I totally remember that.
Yeah.
Yep. Would you guys want to do episodes on The Walking Dead? Maybe like do season 1 at some point, and then season 2, like that. I think that'd be a fun thing to talk about.
I've been wanting to rewatch the show.
Yeah, I have too, actually.
Yeah, and I've been wanting to see if Lily would watch them, because she would see them every once in a while when we would watch them when they were on, but she didn't really watch them.
About that too, so goes The Walking Dead. I was like, the show's not as good as a comic.
I still want to do The Last of Us.
Did you ever talk to Keith about that? I mean, I've never seen it, and I and as much as I want to watch it, I still feel like I got to play the game first. I'll never get on the game, and especially not with my current schedule. My current schedule sucks, unless I quit my job, which I'm thinking about doing. Anyway.
I'm gonna wrap up the horror side of this with another TV show, and that's Supernatural.
Okay.
Right as I was falling out of love with The Walking Dead, I got right into Supernatural, and it was basically like it was a show that I put off for a long time.
Me too.
I heard it was good. A lot of my horror buddies online talked about it, and said it was really good, but I just had in my mind like, oh, it's a CW show. It's gonna be like fucking like Dawson's Creek or something. And I was, and then one year I got pneumonia and I was bedridden for a while, and I was flipping through channels trying to find something to watch, because typically speaking, I used to just go with my DVD collection, but I didn't want to get out. I couldn't really get out of bed. So I was flipping through channels, and on TNT, they did Supernatural for a couple episodes every day, and
I remember that. Yeah,
and I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot, and I really enjoyed it. And then
remember what episode it was? The first one you saw?
The first one I saw was called The French Mistake from season 6, the one where Sam and Dean are transported into our reality, where Supernatural is a TV show.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of fun with it.
That's a good one to cut your teeth on, for sure.
Yeah. And so then I ordered the Blu-rays, and it took me a little bit to get through season 1. I really like season 1, but the first half of season 1 is all like monster of the week.
Yeah,
I
And
love that though.
yeah. I mean, I
No,
remember. I was. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, I did too, but it wasn't like it was like where it's like I was enjoying the show, but it wasn't like where I was obsessed with it, like, and so I would,
It
watch
was
a
all
couple
built up.
episodes, watch something else, but then once I got to season 2, I
Mhm.
got obsessed,
Well,
and
that's
I
when they
was,
really started. A main storyline was towards the end of season 1 into season 2.
yep,
Yeah.
Yellow Eyes.
I was the same way with you because I saw the trailers or the advertisements and they looked like all the other CW stuff, and I'm like, that show's gotta suck. It's a bunch of pretty boys and all. And then I watched it and I went, well, fuck, what's not to love? It's two fun brothers driving in a hot rod hunting
Road
monsters.
tripping.
Like
Yep.
it was like Phantasm 2 the movie or something. It was like,
yeah.
and I
Yeah,
just
such-
remember.
yep.
And yeah, I mean, me and my wife just loved it. And we watched it, and we, of course, Dean Winchester is one of the greatest fucking
He
horror
is.
TV show characters ever.
Hands down.
So great.
I saw it differently. So I would watch Smallville season 5. Well, so Smallville season 5 was airing while Supernatural season 1 was airing. And every now and again, I would just let the TV go because I'd leave in Smallville and go do something else for a little bit. I'd come back and I'd catch clips here and there. And then I watched a full episode, and I believe it was the Bloody Mary episode in season 1.
Yep.
And I'm almost certain it was that one. No. It was the one with the faith healer. That was the one. You remember that episode with the faith healer?
That's a
Holy
really good one.
Yeah.
That's the
I was
first-
like, holy shit, this is such a good. And Julie Benz was in, who I love.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, this is such a good show. So I told Elizabeth, who was away at state police training, I was like, when this comes out on DVD, because it was DVD back then, we're getting it and watching it. And so we binge watched a whole first season before binge watching was a thing. And then we started season 2 from the jump. So I love that show. Yeah. I need to finish it.
Binge watching. Yeah, I think the first thing I binge watched was Lost. We went and rented Lost season 1 at Blockbuster. And we watched it like Saturday morning. We're watching it, and we got through that first disc. And we're like, all right, let's go up there and get the rest.
I need to watch Lost. I've never seen Lost.
Well, Lost was like, I don't think Lost pays it off. It really doesn't. But those first few seasons, I mean, it's just like, I can't wait to the next one. Where is this? Because it's just mystery.
It's
Where are we going?
Watch that.
It's exciting. That's something you should probably watch with your kids if you want to watch something with them.
Buffy was my first binge watch. Just the first. I didn't care about TV shows. My brother had the first 3 seasons on DVD, and he's like, "You keep making fun of Buffy." I'm like, "Well, the dialogue sounds so dumb." He's like, "Well, watch the first season." I'm like, "I'm not gonna watch the whole first season." He's like, "It's 12 episodes." I watched. I was like, "Give me season 2." So, anyway.
Yeah. And moving to the non-horror, there's tons of stuff. The X-Men films. I know I mentioned 1 and 2 earlier, but I love them all. I mean, I even enjoy The Last Stand. I don't hate it. But Logan and X-Men First Class are 2 of my faves. I have on my list
Days of Future Past.
Days of Future Past. Yeah,
Great movie.
incredible. I have a soft spot for Apocalypse.
That year was a great year for superhero movies because it kind of
2014?
rejuvenated. Because it was like that and Guardians of the
Captain
Galaxy
America,
and
Guardians of
Captain
the
America,
Galaxy,
Winter
yeah.
Soldier. Like that was a hell of a fucking
It
year for
was.
superhero movies.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
DC movies that year.
Captain America: The Winter Soldier is my favorite MCU film.
Same.
I love the intensity of it. I love that it's more of like a espionage
movie.
thriller. Like it's really cool. Like, and it
Plus
breaks.
Robert Redford's in it.
Yeah,
And he's awesome.
Yeah.
I like Robert Redford, sorry. He could have been Captain America years ago.
yeah,
Just saying.
yeah. And then there's a few other films. I really love The Watchmen.
Yeah.
Fuck,
Oh my
yes. Yeah.
God. God, yes.
I love Nobody. The Bob Odenkirk film. Oh, it's so good. And then lastly, I have the new Planet of the Apes trilogy, Rise, Dawn, and War, which I think is a perfect trilogy. All 3 films are excellent.
Yes, they are.
excellent
and
story
all
arc
different from each
throughout all
other.
three of them.
Yep.
Probably the best, in my opinion, the best trilogy since Star Wars.
I like
My-
I like when trilogies have, because all three are so different. Like
Yep.
like they have these different things. It's like Nolan's Batman trilogy are three different types of films. The first movie is this origin training movie. The second movie is kind of this crime. It's its own thing, and then the third one's a siege war film.
Mhm.
And so I like that they don't
Assault on
just
Gotham City.
they just don't look like the same movie or feel like the same movie. And that's how the Planet movies. They start very humble and small,
Mhm.
and it gets bigger, and then war is just fucking. It's like the Mad Max progression movies, like the first Mad Max to Road Warrior to like, which I saw the trailer for Furiosa yesterday, and God, I can't wait till that comes out.
Is that the first time you saw it?
What? No, I'd
trailer.
seen it. I'd seen it,
Oh,
but
okay.
just to see it in the theater.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, like big. I'm like, and then it hit me, dude. It's almost been 10 years since Fury Road came out.
Yeah, I need to rewatch that because I hated it when I saw it.
Fucking loved it.
My wife used to influence my thinking. I'm not gonna lie, she hated it. I was like, that sucked. So I'm gonna rewatch it because I feel like that's something I would like. Like
And
watching the trailers and everyone talks about it. I was like, that just feels like a movie I would like.
And I will say about Fury Road, critics fucking loved it. Filmmakers loved it. And the majority of the people that I know that loved it were people who've made movies. A lot of people that didn't like it were like, they weren't seeing the way I was seeing it. And a lot of it was a technical thing. Like it was, and that's what the movie won all the awards at Oscars for. Not the typical stuff. It won for the art direction and the editing and it ran all that stuff. And that's what I saw when I saw that movie. I'm like, holy shit! And that's what like what's his name? Steven Soderbergh said. I went and saw Mad Max Fury Road, and I wouldn't be able to direct 10 minutes of that movie. Like he said, I wouldn't know how to do it.
Really?
Yeah, he said,
that's
he goes,
like the ultimate compliment.
Yeah, because he said, how did George Miller do this? And that's the thing. Like you couldn't explain it to people who've never made a film before. Like, you look at it, you go, no, this is what he's doing. And like, nah, it's just boring. It's just guys, they drive in one direction, they drive in the other. And that's all people saw. And it's like, no. And they was like, there's no story. I'm like, there's total story. There's no characters about, it's total. But it's all done visually. It's pure cinema. It's what Hitchcock talked about. It was like, you could take all of the sound out of Mad Max Fury Road and you'd be able to follow it, be entertained by it. And the way he edited, he did this thing where he kept everything center. So like everywhere your eye needs to go is center. So when the cuts are just seamless because of it. And so when you watch those action sequences, because he developed the movie storyboarding it. Like he did the whole script was written through storyboarding. Like it was all visual. And so when you watch it, I'm like, they don't make movies like this. This was a purely visual storytelling movie where, again, it doesn't matter what they're saying or what's being said, but you could get so much of what's happening and what the story is and what the background and the world building in it, the whole Immortan Joe and all the different factions. And there's what was so funny was I had so many arguments with that movie. People just like it was a piece of shit and it's overrated.
I'm surprised to hear that, honestly, because like I feel like everybody that I've ever met has loved that movie.
God, I had so many people just telling me I'm wrong and that movie's a piece of shit, and people are like, well, none of the actors got nominated for Oscars, so how can it be great? I'm like, because it's not about the actors' performances. Like
that does not matter to me at all.
No, like acting performances don't, like people say, well, if the actors weren't nominated, I'm like, dude, there have been great performances in shitty movies and the actor deserved. It's not. So many people think that acting is what movies are. It's like, no, it goes way beyond the actors. Like there could be amazing movies where there's no award for the actors. Like it's an ensemble piece, and Mad Max Fury Road is very much an ensemble piece. And people would pick things apart. Like one of my favorite criticisms was like, "Oh, Max hardly talks in the movie," and they said, "Well, he doesn't." And someone counted everyone's favorite is Road Warrior.
He doesn't talk in
Everyone
that
says
one either.
he has far fewer words in that movie than Fury Road. He talks a whole lot more in Fury Road than he does in Road Warrior. And the thing that people don't understand, they also bitch that, well, it's not about Max, it's about these bitches. They would talk about the women.
Bitches.
That's what they would say. It's all about these chicks. It's like, it's not even about Max. I'm like, none of the movies were about Max.
They're the most interesting thing about the movie, if I remember correctly.
The first movie was the only Max movie. The sequels are all about Max stumbling upon someone else's fucking story. He's just a reluctant hero who doesn't want to get involved, but gets involved because it's the right thing to do. Yeah, I love Thunderdome. But
Thunderdome's my favorite one. That would be on my list for this show, by the way. Thunderdome's one I watched a lot.
Thunderdome is about the thing with Auntie and Master Blaster and their strife, and then the kids. It's not about Max. Max is just this character like Kane in Kung Fu who just wanders the earth and comes into different storylines and gets involved and then moves on. And same with Road Warrior. He's just trying to get gas and he stumbles upon these two people fighting with these raiders. And Fury Road, Max is just trying to survive. He gets picked up. And
he just happens to be there. It seems like,
Well, look, I mean, I love the Mad Max films, and especially the first two. I'm not as big on Thunderdome as you guys are, but I loved Fury Road. And actually, I remember going to see it in the theater. I was excited to go see it because the trailers sold me. But I went to go see it with Amber, right? And she does not like the original films at all.
Really?
And for some reason she just doesn't. And we were in the theater and I'm watching it. I'm having a good time and I'm like, shit, I know she's gonna hate this. And so we left the theater and I was just like, yeah, so what'd you think? And she's like, I fucking loved it. She loves Fury Road so much. Like she loves to watch it like all the time. And it's just because of like it's visually satisfying. It's just like the colors, and then there's the action sequences, and they're just and the score. I actually downloaded the entire score, and I love listening to it when I drive, and makes me want to put the put the pedal down. But yeah, it kind of actually shocked me because, again, she's not a fan of the series, but she really took to that film, and I think that's actually kind of cool.
I think Thunderdome hit the right time for me because it was when I was 9, and I went and saw it at the drive-in. So it was the first Mad Max movie I saw. So it's
the first one I saw too, but it had more to do with Tina Turner and the Thunderdome video. I saw that on MTV, and then I saw the movie later on. I'm like, and that made me love it. So
I love the music, the One of the Living song, the way it opened. Dun, 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 dun. I actually wrote a short film called One of the Living, based because I listened to that song again, and I'm like, that was a great title for a movie. And I wrote this post-apocalyptic movie short called One of the Living. And but yeah, that opening, I just remember how cool it was. He's on he's walking through the desert, walking into Barter Town. He's got the long hair and he unloads all his weapons. It was just so fucking cool. It's almost like some of the there's some really weird choices in that movie. It's an odd one, but I'm one of these oddballs where Road Warrior is probably my least favorite of the 4. But I love all 4 of them. But I love the first one because the first one reminds me of like a spaghetti western. It very much feels like it could have been like Fistful of Dollars in the post-apocalypse or something. Like the gang, Toe Cutter's gang feels like a Leone outlaw gang. And I just love some of the dialogue, like the one where he says, I'm losing, I'm becoming as bad as they are, only I have a badge to tell me I'm one of the good guys. Like, we're blurring lines here of who's good and who's bad because everything's getting out of control. And I love that it's like on the verge of the end, that things are moving towards the end and out of hand. And I love that it's a Max story. I love it's a revenge story. I love revenge movies. So I think the first one's still my favorite, but Fury Road's definitely my second favorite, if not my tied with the first one.
Mine's Thunderdome, but I love the first one as well. I do like Road Warrior. They're all good. I mean, well, I need to rewatch Fury Road, but you know, is there another one after like another Mad Max coming?
Furiosa, but
Not that
I
one.
don't,
No,
I
I
don't,
mean,
I don't know. I don't know if
I heard there was one called The Wasteland or something like that. Might be
I hope
coming
we
out.
get another Tom Hardy movie because I love Tom Hardy as Max, and I know Tom didn't when he was making Fury Road, he didn't think it was going to be any good. He was actually worried about it, and I think he actually had a lot of fights with George Miller about it. But it was after he saw it, he went, "Oh," because he didn't see it. He didn't see that it was going to work because he innovated something there. Like the way George Miller made this movie was something innovative, and that's why it got so much praise from filmmakers and the filmmaking community and the critics because they saw genius there that he was doing things like Steven Soderbergh's like I don't know how they didn't make that movie, and there were filmmakers like I don't know how 10,000 people didn't die making that movie. Like there's like they did it was an achievement that, and it was the best rated movie of 2015. I mean, critical. It was phenomenal.
Know what I would love? Know what I would love to see is another movie with Max, played by Tom Hardy, but then they do a similar casting like they did with Fury Road, where you bring Mel Gibson in as the film's villain, sort of like how they brought the guy that played Toe Cutter back to play.
Oh yeah, shit yeah.
Jesus Christ, I'm blanking on his name.
Morton Joe.
And Morton Joe, yeah. I think that'd be so cool to do.
Mel
I know
Gibson
that
plays a good villain too. So
I would love to see that, and Mel would totally do it because he's always said he's worked with like 3 geniuses in his career, and George Miller's one of them.
Yeah, well, they were gonna do Fury Road back in like 01 or 02, but because of the whole 9/11 thing and the war going on, they couldn't shoot, and then eventually got to a point where, Mel Gibson said he thought he was too old to play the character, but bring him in to play the villain.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I know.
They're for him to go out on that series. Honestly,
they talked about Mad Max 4 for decades. I remember at one point Robert Downey Jr. was supposed to be in it with Mel Gibson, and I don't know what the story was, if it was Fury Road or it was something else. But I do remember them announcing that Mad Max 4 is in pre-production, and Robert Downey Jr. is co-star with Mel Gibson. And this is before the Iron Man. This is before Robert Downey Jr. kind of had his big comeback.
I want to watch Thunderdome really bad now. Just saying.
Master Blaster runs by the town. Good show. I think you topped my time.
Yeah, I did.
3 hours. Now we got Ray's and Jared's to do.
I'm gonna do mine differently. I got an idea. So I was talking to Seth about it. I was like, nobody cares. Most of my movies are going to overlap with everybody else's. But I think I'm going to pick 3 movies from each timeline that really had an effect on me. Because I'm my favorite number is 3, and I do like to do things in 3s. Because I was thinking about it, like when I was 19, 20, 21 years old, there were 3 movies that were huge for me. It was American Psycho, The Big Lebowski, and Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Those were the movies for that time period that were, that I lived on. I lived and breathed those 3 movies. And like those 3 movies, I can almost recite line for line, and it's the same thing. I'm looking back. I mean, because I could say Star Wars, of course. I love Star Wars. I adore Star Wars. I used to live and breathe Star Wars for a long time. But I know, like, through these, there are at least 3 movies I'm going to pick from each ones that really had an effect on me. Because, like, after talking to Seth earlier about it, I was like, I don't know. And I started thinking about, like, I liked a lot of cartoons when I was growing up. Like, I watched cartoons until and I thought about, like, G.I. Joe had a huge influence on me, and Transformers. And then I got, like, back to my roots. Indiana Jones was huge for me. Massive, and I'm talking about Raiders and Temple. And I love, my favorite's Last Crusade, but you know, and I feel like that's obvious, but there are some other ones down there that are kind of down deep that I'm gonna not go for the obvious ones because like you'd mentioned, Just One of the Guys was a big one for me. You know, I mean, where do you get off having tits? That's one of the best lines in cinema. So I'm just saying. So I'm thinking I'm gonna try that. If that doesn't work, then I'll do the regular way. But because I know there's like at least 3 films. But at the same time, when I was watching American Psycho and Fear and Loathing, that's when I started seeing the Godfather and Scarface and all these other movies that I should have seen earlier that are very influential for me. So it's gonna be a task. So, but we'll do that soon. I do want to talk about. I watched Giallo today, Bay of Blood. So I'd like to discuss that at some point soon if you guys are down. It's on Shudder currently. One of Mario Bava's finest. Oh yeah, I love Bava. He's one of my favorites.
Is that the one that's got the alternate twist of the Death Nerve? Is that the same?
Twitch of the Death Nerve, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I watched Deep Red with Helena last. She watched both of those with me, and she loved them. She loves Giallos for some reason. She's an odd girl, but I love her. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff I'd like to do, and just coming from this conversation and Nate's conversation, there's a lot of movies that we've mentioned that I'm like, God, I'd love to spend more time on this movie, but we're talking horror, you know. And, so yeah, there's a lot of good coming from this. And Super Batman Nerd said something to Sean Show. His favorite Batman movie is I love Batman Forever. That one got me through a lot of shit in the mid '90s. So you know what you said you saw? What'd you say you saw 13 times? Spider-Man. I saw Batman Forever over 25 times. It was playing in a dollar theater. Yeah, it was playing in a dollar theater that was like 3 blocks from my house. Wow. So I went like every day for a month in 1995.
I could never get into that one. I mean, Jim Carrey was like God at that time, so I think Jim Carrey was the draw for me. But I remember not feeling like Val Kilmer was totally wrong for Batman.
No way. Bob Kane said he was his favorite.
I know that, and I just never saw it. I didn't see him as Batman.
I am an admitted Val Kilmer fan. First of all, I love Val Kilmer. He might be a prick to work with, but he's also he's a very talented actor who disappears in every role he's in, you know, for the most part. And he may not have been the best Batman. He was a good Bruce Wayne, but the thing is, like, that was when I was like, this is coming off of Nightfall and some of the great Batman stories of the early 90s. And so, like, that was, again, living and breathing Batman for that time. And if I had nothing to do one day during that summertime, I was 15, nothing to do, walk up to the Lincoln and see Batman. So yeah.
I think it was more me going off visual, like, because I remember thinking when George Clooney was announced, like, oh, he's perfect for Bruce Wayne. Like,
yeah, no,
I could totally see George Clooney being the perfect Batman.
He's got the perfect chin too.
Yeah, and it's like, the movie. And I can't blame Joe because I don't know. I mean, because that's what people knew Batman for was the Adam West Batman campy silly shit. Yeah. And the thing is, like, Burton's movies are a little more campier than people really thought of them. They were darker than the Adam West. They were darker, but they still had that tongue-in-cheek campiness to them. You know,
like the scene where he just punches the guy. That's not going to knock somebody out.
Yeah, like it wasn't. It wasn't until Nolan came around and like, oh, this now Tim Burton's movies look a little more comic booky than they did to us initially.
Well, they were Tim Burton movies anyway, too.
Yeah, they're totally Tim Burton, and that's the thing. Like, Joe Schumacher didn't have that Tim Burton element to his filmmaking, where Tim is a very. You could, like, again, we talked about Joe Schumacher. Joe Schumacher doesn't have a style. You can't watch a movie and go, oh, that's a Joe Schumacher movie. But you can watch Tim Burton and 5 minutes in or 5 seconds in that this is Tim Burton movie.
Right. And what's funny about Joel Schumacher, if I could real fast, is I'll watch a movie and I'll be like, directed by Joel Schumacher, really?
Yeah. You don't know until the movie's over unless you do it in.
Yeah. I'm like, that's surprising.
Yeah.
One thing I've always said about the Batman, those 4 Batman movies is they're kind of like representations of the comics at certain periods. Like Batman and Batman Returns are the 70s and 80s. They're dark, where the Batman Forever's into the 60s. And then you remember in the 1950s, well, we don't remember because we didn't grow up with it, but you've seen comics from the 1950s where Batman and Robin is very campy and very late 50s, early 60s. That's what Batman Forever and Batman and Robin kind of represent that time of comics. Very bright colors. I mean, look at all the neon Joel Schumacher and the crew used on those two movies alone.
Well, it's like those Batman movies, Schumacher's movies, to me felt like what people who didn't read comics thought comic books were.
Right.
That's what they kind of felt like.
Right.
Like, because like people who hadn't read Alan Moore or Frank Miller or that kind of thing, it's just that we were still waiting for people to make comic book movies that were definitely movies that the comic book the people who made them knew comic books. I don't even think Tim Burton really knew comic books. Really, didn't he say like I never read a comic book? Didn't Kevin Smith say something like that? Like Tim Burton said in an interview.
I'm pretty sure he did.
Do I look like someone who's never ever read a comic book? And that explains fucking Batman or something.
I just watched the documentary by John Schnepp, the Death of Superman Lives, What Happened documentary, and I think he says it in that documentary that he'd never read a comic book before.
Tim Burton. And then Kevin's like, "Well, that explains fucking Batman." Or
something. Yeah. That's actually that's in that same interview. Yeah. The thing is, like, what we could, I would suggest that we could do an episode on the 1989 Batman film. It's very dark, very kind of horror. I mean, the Joker's
one, especially the Penguins.
Yeah, both of them we could probably do. I mean, think about the Joker's transformation and that scene where she pushed the water on his face and his makeup just looks so horrific looking. There's a lot of horror elements to the first Batman.
Batman to me has always been a horror. Has walked the line of horror because the character is supposed to be instilling fear, and all of his characters are mostly psychopaths and killers. Like they're not. I mean, there's Arkham Asylum. I mean, isn't that like from Lovecraft? Like,
Lovecraft, yeah.
Like so, there's so many roots in horror, and like the Man Who Laughs is a horror movie, and that's where the Joker comes from. Yeah, I mean the Batman character has always borderlined on horror. The way that opening scene where Batman gets the two hoods is very much like a horror film, like in a dark alley.
The guy, he's holding the one guy. First of all, the one guy's scared. He's like, I don't know about the bat. And the other guy's the bat.
Yeah, the bat. No bat. And but even like Nolan, the first time Batman shows up in Nolan's Batman Begins, it's like a horror scene.
Oh, where the guy's shooting around and where are you? Here. And then that's a good scene. That's the best Batman movie he made, by the way.
It's my favorite Batman movie next to the new one, the Batman.
What do you think, Seth? Should we do a Batman? See what happens?
Yeah,
let's do it. What do you think, Nate? You down? You game?
I'm down to do Batman shit.
Fuck yeah. Let's do some Batman. We can probably do the Mad Max movie. I don't know. We can do whatever the fuck we want, honestly. I mean,
post-apocalyptic movies are horror movies.
Well, I remember Road Warrior, the first time I watched it, there were some moments that really freaked me out because I was really young when I saw it. What do they call that guy with the hockey mask on?
Humongous.
Yeah, he freaked me out. I'm not even joking. He freaked me out when I was younger. So, and then some of the imagery in Fury Road also, the spray painting their mouths with silver spray paint. Oh, what a lovely day, or whatever it was. That's freaky. And the guy, the main bad guy. There's some definite horror vibes going on in those movies for sure. If they're not flat out horror movies, which I don't think they are, but I don't know. I think it'd be fun to see what our audience would do if we did a non-horror movie. We won't go Superman on them, but maybe do a Batman. I know Seth and I are going to be doing some stuff on the other channel too. But
when we were doing all the modern horror movies, oh, y'all are doing non-horror movies now? We're like, what? Like Midsummer's not a horror movie?
Yeah. Oh my god, that whole thing with Midsummer the other day. I don't think the guy realized that he friend requested me not very long ago. And he messaged me. He's like, "Oh, you being such a dick." I'm like, "I'm just telling you that it's not your opinion. That it's not the Wicker Man. It's the same as the Wicker Man because it's a fact that it's not." And he kept asking me, "Well, explain it to me." I'm like, "I just did. I'm done with this. Please leave me alone." Anyway, yeah. Well, we went over 3 hours. Not surprised. That happens with us.
Did you see my? I shared it with you guys, but I thought I had to read that since we talked about criticism. That meme that popped up on my page.
Oh yeah, I like that. I saw that.
Yeah, it says a young artist exhibits their work for the first time, and a well-known art critic is in attendance. The critic says to the young artist, "Would you like to hear my opinion of your work?" "Yes," the artist replies. "It's worthless," the critic says. "I know," the artist replies, "but let's hear it anyway."
I like that.
That's so fucking great.
That's good. I did like that. I saw that. You sent it to the group. Seth, how'd you feel about your episode tonight, man? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was fun.
It's the most we've heard you talk all year.
You have to talk more than all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I went through my computer earlier too, and I kind of removed a couple of programs and stuff like that, and I've had no issues as far as glitching tonight.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I didn't mention it because I didn't want to jinx it, but like, dude, right. he's not on a delay tonight.
No delay. Yeah. I wonder, like, I don't want to mess it up, but I wonder how your video would do at this point with getting rid of some of these programs.
Yeah, turn your video on.
Yeah. Let's see. Come on.
He's got to get dressed real quick, though.
Yeah, right. Put some clothes on. Oh, look. He's waving.
He's not glitching.
No. Say something. Or drink first and then say something.
Something.
Okay. Now let me ask you a question and answer me right after I ask the question. What is your favorite Batman movie?
Batman Returns.
Slight delay, but perfect. And yes, that's the right answer. That's my favorite Batman. Nate, what's your favorite Batman movie?
It's between Batman Begins and the Batman. The Batman's still too new for me to say that one, but I fucking love the Batman.
The Batman's climbing every time I watch. I'm like, fuck. The thing about the Batman. Go ahead, Seth.
Batman Begins is my favorite Nolan film.
Same here.
It's my second favorite Batman film. I love it.
I would Batman Begins would be the perfect movie if not for that third act. I don't really like the whole.
I love the third act.
I don't really like the whole Ra's al Ghul train fight thing.
I love it.
It's just not my favorite ending.
The only thing I don't like about it is the thing. Okay, the Batman. I rewatched the Dark Knight trilogy recently. One of the things I don't like about some of the things are the dialogue. There's a lot of cheeseball dialogue, like the cliche line, "Oh, got to get me one of those." They threw that in there. It's like, come on, aren't we past that by now? It's 2005 at this point.
The most overused line in comic book movies, and I think it was in Tim Burton's Batman, is where it started, right? Is the nice outfit thing.
Oh,
that's been in like at least 4 or 5 superhero movies. Nice outfit. It's The Crow says in that.
That's another one we could probably do on this show.
The Crow is totally a horror movie. All the horror. I would love to do The Crow. Like Batman and The Crow were significant movies.
Let's do The Crow next week.
I've been wanting to show Lily The Crow.
Yeah, well, let's do that because I haven't watched that in a while. I'd love to watch it. Let's do The Crow. You want to do The Crow next week, Seth?
Yeah.
Look at this guy, brand new guy. I can see him clear. He's not. Yeah. Some program problems. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was just my computer.
Like Vermont finally caught up with technology.
No. It's finally 2017 in Vermont.
I'm in fucking Kentucky, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, I know. I mean, technically, I'm right outside a big city.
I mean, we just got shoes last week. Yeah. we got Supernatural. We just been watching Andy Griffith for the last 40 years.
Oh my god. You want to talk about things that made you? I watched so many episodes of the Andy Griffith Show because of my stepdad. That's all he fucking watched. There was like an hour or 2 hour block of Andy Griffith.
Whistling every 30 minutes.
Oh my god! Seriously, he'd get home from work at 5, and there'd be 2 hours of Andy Griffith. Give me strength. That's how I found out about James Bond. Actually, Seth. I was talking about in the 90s they had on TBS movies for guys who like movies, and they would show like all the Bond movies up to that point, because this was before Brosnan had movies. And we were watching the Andy Griffith Show, and my stepdad was like, "Oh, James Bond movies are coming." And then a couple of days later, he was watching Live and Let Die, and I watched that with him. So, yeah, no turning back. I love that movie. Plus, I heard the thing that caught me was I heard Live and Let Die playing the song, which is Paul McCartney. But I had heard it before through
Guns
N' Roses. Yeah, so I heard it. I was walking through the living room. I heard it. I'm like, "What is this?" And he's like, "Oh, it's James Bond." I'm like, "They're playing Live and Let Die?" I didn't know that was even a remake or a cover. And I sat down and watched the whole goddamn movie, Live and Let Die, because of that song. So, yeah. Anyway, I love that. It's my favorite Bond movie. And it's just sentimental reasons, because there are way better Bond movies than that. I love Roger Moore because I saw all of his movies first. The Man with the Golden Gun's another one of my favorites. Christopher Lee, obviously, is in that one. So, anyway. All right, let's stop, because it's past midnight for you guys. I was gonna watch L.A. Confidential. That's not happening tonight. I gotta get up at 6:30. Anyway, guys, always love talking to you two fellas. Hopefully next week we'll have Jared back. I do have an intro with Jared. I just know that when he's not on the show,
false advertising.
Right. I don't want people like, "Where's Jared? You have him in the opening." Well, I got an opening for Jared too. Relax. So, anyway, any last thoughts on the night, Nate?
Thank you, Seth.
Yeah, it was a good time. Thank you for your story about I almost said wolf soldiers, dog soldiers. I really like hearing stories like that.
Yeah, I've considered sharing it before, but I just haven't. But yeah, it was a fun show tonight, guys.
I just gotta upload it. Yeah, it was a good time. I'm glad that you were able to talk throughout the whole thing without any fuck ups. Curiosity's got me. What'd you delete that freed up the space?
All that porn.
Well, all the midget porn.
Okay. Had a feeling.
Little people porn. Come on.
Well, yeah.
We're gonna get canceled. Let's say you think of my wife's been watching Kirby Enthusiasm again. Like we've been watching.
I just finished season 11. Yeah, I love it.
And did you was what one where Leon? They're talking about the book Little Women. They're talking about and they asked Leon, like, "Do you like Little Women?" He goes, "Fucking love them. Little midget women, love them."
Yeah.
He's talking about the book.
Dude.
He's talking about short women. Fucking love
There's
them.
There's a new podcast called The History of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Susie and Jeff they talk about the production of it. If you like that show, watch it. It's about 35-45 minutes long. I love it because I love hearing. First of all, Larry David's a hero of mine.
Yeah.
He is, and most of it stems from the show because of the way he just says what's on his mind. It's like, I want to be that way, like I want to be a social assassin.
We've been cracking up. Like I said, I want to see behind the scenes footage of when they do those moments where they like Larry's staring at somebody to see if they're lying or telling the truth. Like,
oh yeah.
Like I said, there's no way they do that without laughing a few.
It
has to take a few takes because it's just.
And the show is almost 100% improv too, which I'd love to just watch the outtakes of the stuff that didn't make it into the cut.
Yeah,
because it shows Larry David's brilliant. He's one of the best, most whatever comedy minds of all time. I mean, God, I love Larry David. I really do. Seth, have you ever watched that show?
No, but I want to, and I know I know your favorite thing, your go-to, like if you're in disagreement with people, is to share a Larry David.
He's weighing his options in that moment.
I think you'd totally love.
I think you'd love it.
Yeah. I think you would relate to Larry very, very much.
Probably.
I think. Did you like Seinfeld? Did you like?
Yeah, he was the model for George Costanza, right?
Yeah, he's totally like because there's one episode where people are telling him how what a asshole, what a stupid.
Well, no, Jason
idiot.
Alexander was on the show.
Yeah,
And he's like, I don't want to be known for the putts, the
Plus,
schmuck.
he's like, oh, he's a schmuck, and then everybody's like, yeah, oh, yeah, and he's like, he doesn't ever say it. But
He's not a schmuck.
George is me.
He's like, who did it clear out of a trash can? He's like, I did that. It's like, oh my god. There's a documentary on it was on the Seinfeld Blu-ray or DVD sets, but it's on YouTube. I was watching the other night. It's like which moments in every Seinfeld episodes are based on reality. It's pure gold. It is. It's really good. Like even the John Voight's car thing is based on something that really happened. So anyway, yeah, let's wrap this up because we could talk for hours, and I think number 2 is coming.
What's wild is watching Curb Your Enthusiasm back. How many stars were on there before they were stars? Like a lot of the Office people, a lot of
Oscar,
yeah,
Kelly,
yeah.
Jerry Gergich was on there too.
I was just watching the other day. It's Steve Colbert was on there. I think it's right before he was doing like the Daily Show and all that. Stephen Colbert.
What did he play?
Melissa McCarthy was on there, young and thin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was really early too. That was one of the first seasons, I believe.
Yeah, he started in 2000.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Actually, there's a new episode tonight. Maybe I'll watch that before I go to bed.
Yeah.
All right. If nobody's left right now, it doesn't matter. Subscribe to the Horror Syndicate, and we're going to do The Crow next week. That'll be fun. Man, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
That'll be a lot of fun. Fire it up. Anyway, I relate to those guys so much. No, I don't. But anyway, it'll be a good time. We'll do The Crow next week, and Seth and I will see you on Wednesday for the final Child's Play movie, the 2019 film. Hopefully Jared will be back with us on Sunday. If not, we'll still have a good time anyway. Nate, have a great night. Seth, have a great night. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Evil Bye. Tonight.
You had